Call the meeting to order. Meeting of the Police Station Advisory Building Committee and the Board of Selectmen. Joint meeting agenda, January 28th, 2019. This meeting is being cablecast by Area 58, Community Access Media, Channel 15. We have openings on several committees. Please refer to the Board of Selectmen page on our website for a listing and an application. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
And our community prayer from Selectman Dunham.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessings as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek. And keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
Before turning it over to the Police Station Building Committee, I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you. First of all, thanks everyone for being here tonight and listening to the discussions that will take place about the siting of the new Carver Police Station. Just a little bit about how we got to this place tonight. Town meeting approved the money to build a new police station last year. It's being built under the tax levy. Just a reminder, I think we might have lost sight of that somewhere along the way. Nobody's taxes are being increased as a result of building this new police station. As a result of the formulas that we've been working with the building stabilization plan. In fact, I see Mr. Pratt back there, who was instrumental in helping develop that plan. We've built a fire station under the tax levy. We've millions of dollars of repairs down at the high school under the tax levy, and the police station will be built under the tax levy. So I think that needs to be stated. At town meeting, no site was specified to town meeting for the location of the police station. The Police Station Building Committee was formed and met monthly to develop the design of the police station and to determine where it would be located. They hired an architect with expertise in designing public safety facilities who looked over the entire town complex and determined that the best location for the new police station, based on its design and public safety, was adjacent to the town library, including the location of the current community playground. The Police Station Building Committee reviewed the architect plans and voted to recommend them to the Board of Selectmen. A public hearing was held on Monday, December 3rd to review that recommendation. On Tuesday, December 4th, a presentation was made to the Board of Selectmen by the architect and the Building Committee. After the presentation was completed, the Selectmen voted 4-1 to accept the recommendation of the Police Station Building Committee. Selectman Sarah Hewins voted against the recommendation. Sarah had drawn plans up that she felt presented a viable alternative to what had been voted and that did not require the removal of the existing community playground. Sarah sought to get a response to her alternative plans and questions, and this meeting was set up to specifically do so. The prior vote took place on December 4th. It's now almost 2 months later, and we're together now to listen to the responses to those questions and alternatives that Sarah raised, and at the end of it, reconsider the original vote. During this almost 2-month period, we've received a lot of emails, in addition to the significant discussions that have taken place in social media. Some of the emails were very thoughtful, some were very passionate, but didn't necessarily have the facts correct, and some of them were downright disrespectful, but that's just where we are today. Some folks have come to me and suggested they were aware of some sort of an active campaign to solicit emails and undermine the original vote. I don't think that matters whether that is or isn't true. What's important is that we're here tonight. It's 2 months later, and I think at least the fact that it's 2 months later, for the criticism that this all came up too fast, I think the fact that we've taken this time out in social media to have the discussions, to have the debate at committee meetings, through emails, that at least now, hopefully, no one is going to suggest that this whole issue has not been properly vetted. So, here we are, 2 months later, reconsidering the issue. What's in the best interest of the town? Our job tonight, speaking to the Board of Selectmen and to the Police Station Building Committee, is to listen and consider whether there is indeed an alternative that does not overly compromise public safety considerations. The format will be a presentation by the architect and building committee responding to the alternative ideas and suggestions raised by Sarah and others. Then the selectmen will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then we will ask for public input. At the end of the public input, I will ask the police building committee if they or any of their members would like to reconsider their original recommendation and/or revote. Then I will ask the Board of Selectmen if they would like to change their position on the recommendation and/or revote. So we'll begin shortly, but I want to add these points. First of all, I would ask everybody to be respectful tonight, maintain a civil tone. We're all here trying to do what we think is best for the town. And whether you're for this plan or against it, try to maintain civility. In fact, I want to mention, I see Donna Ferrand out there, March 15th, Friday, March 15th, Donna is having a healing Carver night down at the high school, 6:30, and I'd ask everybody to think about it because this and a few other issues that have been before the town have created a great deal of divisiveness, and it would be nice if we can come together and realize that we can have different opinions without making it personal at the same time. So thank you, Donna, for pulling that together. As important, I ask all the members of the Board of Selectmen and the Building Committee to really listen to the discussion tonight with an open mind. It's human nature, after you get bashed around a bit on social media and other ways, to sort of dig in, be resentful, and not want to change your mind. But our job is simple. What is in the best interest of the town of Carver? For the town of Carver and for public safety. If we hear anything tonight that leads us to believe that there is a viable alternative that would save the playground without compromising public safety, we need to embrace that alternative. All that said, again, thank you for being here. I'll now turn the meeting over to the Police Station Building Committee for their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I could, I'd like to do a quick update. The Recreation Committee will be meeting tomorrow night and on Thursday night with the CPC to request an allocation not to exceed $600,000 of the $901,000 available for recreation to construct Phase 1 of the recreation complex on the Town Hall facility. This is on top of the $419,000 the CPC has available in Affordable Housing Fund and $227,000 they have available in Historic Preservation Fund that is currently sitting in bank accounts. Again, this money is already in their accounts, waiting for a viable project to move forward. This is no additional tax revenue. If I can go to
Some noise.
You need to
That's my
speak
mic.
closer.
You know what the static is up there?
Why don't you grab one of the other mic there and see if that works better?
I hear the static over there. It's not me. Yeah, it's the same. You can hear the static.
I have a report from back home that sound is horrible, but the picture is there. Last time we had sound but no picture, so
Smile.
probably the next time we'll have them both together.
All right. While we're trying to figure out the static, I'm going to stand up here so my voice is carried. All right. So, what I have behind me is Phase 1 of the recreation complex, and I'm going to go to just blow that up a little bit. Phase 1 will include a new playground equal to and better than the old one with new equipment, a 10-foot high fence, both resilient clay and wood fiber surfaces, walking paths, picnic areas, site lighting, significant parking, redoing the 4 baseball and softball infields, a new well, irrigation upgrades, and a concession toilet upgrades. This will all be done with a request of $600,000 to the CPC. As I mentioned, they already have this fund available. If the residents of Carver vote to approve Phase 1 at town meeting this April, it is anticipated the work on this recreation complex will begin in May and will be completed by the end of July, ahead of the police station construction schedule. Now to the agenda. Last week, I was made aware of a Facebook post by Carver resident Peter Allegrini. In the post, he stated it's taken some time to understand the processes and explanation of why the area where the playground currently sits is the best spot. He continues, after spending time with the professionals and educating himself, he understands a bit better. And he concludes with, please get all the information and facts from people that are doing this for a living. That's why we have professionals. Please trust the professionals. I want to thank Peter for that post and for educating himself and understanding the information and need to rely on professionals. This is exactly what the members of the Police Station Advisory Committee have been doing for some time. We all made our decision based on what the real facts of the professionals have provided, as we have done for other projects, while also seeing firsthand the bigger picture for Carver and to put the community's best interests at the forefront. Let's spend a few minutes talking about professionals. Tonight you are going to hear from our architect, Brian Hughes, an expert on police stations, having built over 80 police stations, including developing comprehensive needs assessments for the police station. The needs assessment was worked on by both the chief and the rank and file in the department to determine what their needs are for the next 50 years. That is the most important document because that goes into building the framework or the space needs for the building. That had to be done before we even looked at sites. Next is our owner project manager, Joe Sullivan, who has directly overseen more than a dozen public safety buildings, including our fire station, and he also lives in Carver. Mark Dufely, our police chief, brings over 24 years of experience and expertise. The chief is the sole person who can speak for the long-term needs of the police department. He's the one. The police chief is responsible for recommending the best location for the new police station, for the police department, and for public safety after weighing out all the options and listening for the input from professionals. Over the last 10 months, the Police Station Advisory Committee has been working on this project. They have continually proven themselves to be experts on behalf of the entire community in building public safety buildings. They can take credit in a successful fire station and an elementary school, including the recreation complex and new playgrounds at the elementary school, both of which were under budget. Plus there was the renovation of the middle high school and the new sports complex at the middle high school. Again, 4 major projects this town has done in the last few years. They are busy, and the results can be attributed to the dedicated commitment and participation in over 200 meetings that they have had on behalf of the residents of Carver. Carver's success in these projects serves as a model to many other communities. The core member of the committee includes our co-chair, former fire chief Bill Harriman, who personally commits at least 12 hours per week in volunteer time. I'm sending him our best wishes as he's taking some time off the committee for health reasons. We hope to get him back shortly. Next is John Deli Pascoli. He brings private sector building experience that has helped the town reduce cost and maintain durability. He has also donated resources and equipment to further save the town money on our projects. Both have volunteered their time without compensation and serve the public good. Dave Siegentoff, to my left, or your right, our Director of Operation and Maintenance ensures that we have identical mechanical systems where possible for ease of maintenance and long-term durability with an eye towards future operational cost. Trying to keep those down, knowing that if we go cheap on the buildings, it's going to cost us more in the long term. So every building that we've constructed is very durable, and we have similar mechanical systems in each one of them. Town meeting charged your town administrator to be solely responsible for each of our building and capital projects. As the individual solely responsible, this includes authorization to expend funds appropriated in the most financially responsible manner and to manage the approved projects. From planning and design to procurement, including negotiations and approval of all contracts and change orders. As a professional town administrator, I find it important to surround myself with other professionals and experts who are only concerned with the town's best long-term interest. With that said, I have reappointed these members with the support of the Board of Selectmen. By adding the police chief, police sergeant, and a member of the Board of Selectmen, we have a dedicated, focused team and committee that is interested in the best long-term interest for the entire town, not influenced by politics or special interest groups or social media. In an open letter to the community, Selectman Sarah Hewins raised 50 questions and/or stated points in regards to the location of the new police station on the existing 18-year-old playground. This was done after the Selectmen's 4-to-1 vote to accept the new police station advisory building committee's recommendation and rebuild a new state-of-the-art playground on the town hall complex under the direction of the Recreation Committee. Tonight, our professionals are, again, going to answer these questions. We'll be going one by one, all 50 questions or statements, and they will be videotaped. Additionally, we will post the answers on the website following tonight's meeting. The videotaping will grant access to everyone who cannot join us this evening. You will hear 4 important and real facts the committee considered when making the decision for the best interest and safety of our town to locate the new police station tonight. 1, you will hear from the professionals as there is only 1.9 acres given zoning and well setbacks. You will hear why this does not provide enough land to meet the needs of the police department now or into the future. 2, you will hear from the professionals it will cost $286,745 to move the police station from its selected location. It is also important to note, as the chairman mentioned, the project approved by the Selectmen will all be done within the tax levy, the town's existing budgets, and will not require an override. Carver's financial system is strong and designed to handle projects like this the Selectmen and town meeting approve. Number 3, you will hear from the professionals. The building cannot be built as suggested on social media due to zoning setbacks, thereby having to move it further back, making it less visible and less safe the further it is moved away to accommodate the zoning requirements. Number 4, let me be clear. The committee would have preferred not to recommend moving the old playground when they viewed that back in October and November of this year. That would have been the easy thing to do, or the political safe thing to do. But there are no good options that would benefit the department and the community's public safety as much as this site. They made the hard decision, and they paid for it since then. The professionals tonight will go over the many logistical, public safety, and sound financial reasons to move the playground to make way for the new police station that will satisfy the department needs and provide a state-of-the-art playground and recreation complex for our community. You will hear why the selected location is the best choice for the community, understand how we went through that process as well as a whole, and again, doing this is the best choice for the community as a whole, as has been recommended and was previously approved. Thank you. And from here, we're going to start with question number 1, and Joe Sullivan.
Sure.
And I think is the noise gone now?
Yes.
Okay.
So please make sure you pull the mics in tight.
Thank you. Again, my name's Joe Sullivan. I'm a resident of Carver for 27 years, and I was selected as our firm, Daedalus Projects Incorporated, as the owner's project management for the new police station. Question 1, the revised plan that I provided to the building committee and attached hereas with earlier versions has everything our chief of police asked for at the 12/3/2018 public forum. In my many years of managing public safety buildings, there are many components and facets that a new facility must have to ensure police operations are handled appropriately. In my experience, the end user, who are the experts in this field with public safety, are the people who know what is really needed for police operations. Tonight, we're going to hear from the chief directly as to what he asked for and whether or not the plan that was provided meets the Carver Police Department's needs.
Item number 2. And as a point of introduction, again, I'm Brian Humes, representing Jakunski Humes Architects out of Berlin, Connecticut. And we have 50 items that we have to go through tonight. We're not going to spend a lot of time on each one of them, but we need to answer all of them. The answers that I'm giving you tonight to these 50 items are prepared answers. But they were all prepared by me. There was no other input on these answers from anybody else from the committee, anybody else from the Board of Selectmen, or anybody else from town administration or the project. So I'm speaking my opinions. I'm speaking from the advice that I have been giving the building committee and in conversations with the police department. We will have time after these 50 items. If anybody has any more questions, I'd be happy to go into any of these answers in more detail, but I think we need to first get through what we've prepared in response to the questions. So the items that you see on the screen are the points that were made in Mrs. Hewen's letter, and so we're going to be taking these individually. Number 2, it's in the center of town, directly across from the fire station and highly visible from Route 58. I've always stressed the importance of visibility and accessibility for the final solution. I believe that the proposed PSBC solution improves both conditions in comparison to alternative solutions. Item 3. I guess without reading it, I think should I read these, or you can see them on the screen?
I'd read them.
Should I read them for people that are out here? Number 3, it does not change the configuration of the station, but simply moves it 50 feet to the north. As stated previously, the alternative plan presented by Mrs. Hewens does not conform to zoning setback requirements for the town of Carver. In addition to moving north, her proposed solution would need to move the building to the rear of the site to conform to required front yard setback requirements along Center Street. Item 4, the plan shows parking for 30 residents on the public side of the station, 2 of which are handicapped accessible. The alternative plan presented by Mrs. Hewens presents a contorted entrance drive and inefficient parking configuration for public use. The parking location is too close to Center Street for vehicle use, prevents 2 dead-end conditions, and does not provide adequate clearances for turning or queuing. In my opinion, this proposed solution is unsafe, inefficient, and not one that I would recommend. Item 5, the plan shows 30 spaces for police vehicles, plus room for impounded vehicles, but it can accommodate much more parking. The alternative plan does not show these parking. Let me start again. The alternative plan does show these parking spots, but these spaces are not convenient to the new facility. We're talking about parking for police vehicles. The proposed plan also does not accommodate vehicular traffic patterns required for a drive-through Sallyport as requested by the Carver Police Department. Item 6. When you start with 13.4 acres and subtract 0.33 acres for our playground, subtract another 0.33 acres for our current library, and subtract 4.5 acres needed for the wellhead protection area, you are left with 8.24 acres to put a police station, outbuildings, tons of parking, space for future station expansion, and more. This project has had the convenience of having Mr. Arthur Borden, a local surveyor, assisting with the project to provide a land survey. Mr. Borden has calculated the available area for site development, taking into account all restrictions and leases and setbacks, and has concluded that the site development area would be equal to 83,400 square feet, or 1.9145 acres. If all existing site constraints and zoning regulations are taken into account, a copy of this analysis is available for viewing. Item 7, public and police functions and traffic are completely separated on this plan. If needed, the police parking behind the station can be connected to public parking areas to provide an additional exit for police vehicles and a redundant exit for the public parking. For this point, I have always been a proponent of providing a second means of egress from the site for emergency use only by fleet vehicles. This is indicated on Mrs. Hewen's proposed plan, but would not be recommended as a redundant exit for public parking as proposed above.
Question number 8. At the Selectmen's meeting of December 4th, the Police Station Building Committee said that required tree cutting for this plan would cost approximately $250,000 and gave this as a reason the police station needs to go on top of the playground. This statement is not entirely correct. The Police Station Building Committee never stated that the tree cutting plan was going to be $250,000. This was only a portion of the actual site work involved. The site work would include, and including the tree cutting, it would be stump removal of the organic material, excavation and placement of site utilities, which location of the station directly impacts the cost providing the utilities, along with any associated back charges. In addition to that, adjacent parking, site utilities, stormwater drainage, along with the final asphalt curbing and striping. Although both plans would have that, the plan directly next to the library, which would get shifted north, would need additional parking that would be utilizing parking that the library had along that roadway. Number 9, the $250,000 number is widely inflated. The verbal quote I got from a reputable land clearer in Carver was $20,000 for 2 acres for cutting, chipping, and stumping. As previously discussed, these costs associated with the site work above and beyond just cutting of the trees. Any work related to this project would need to be publicly bid, and prevailing wage would need to be paid to each of these workers. Number 10, the less than a tenth of the amount quoted at these meetings. I'm sorry, this is less than a tenth of the amount quoted in the meetings. Once again, the construction documents aren't complete for pricing for each of the scope of work related to this project. Clearly, the work identified for this work related to the site. To make a statement that it is less than a tenth of the cost quoted is not fair nor accurate. Number 11, it's a whole lot cheaper than building a new playground over $250,000. There are a lot of assumptions made from this statement, in my opinion. I don't agree with it, and I think that it's more than just taking down trees to make up the difference. On the screen, you'll see the additional costs that we actually did a cost estimate on by moving the building adjacent to the current playground. The additional tree cutting was about $40,000. I agree that the 2 acres from a local, you could probably get a local person to price that. I think based on that, you would probably end up getting at least 3 proposals to meet the procurement process of that. Clearing and grubbing of the topsoil and stumps, we estimated at about $10,000. Additional rough grade, fine grade for paved areas was $9,400. The 12-inch dense grade under the needed drives and parking was $21,000. The stormwater drainage for the parking and roadways requirements was about $101,300. Extension of the gas service for Main Street was priced out at $9,000, and the final asphalt paving, curving, and striping worked out to be $105,445 for a total cost of $286,745. As I said, these takeoffs are done on an estimated basis based on relative costs associated with these projects as we've bid them in the market over the last 2 to 3 months.
Item 12, a few objections to having the playground on the same site as the police station stated at the various meetings were there is not enough room for all the parking needed, that police vehicles need to be separated from the public, and that traffic flow with the playground on the site does not work. The proposed solution by the building committee utilizes the existing parking lot adjacent to the public library as potential overflow parking to accommodate large gatherings. This is an efficient use of existing assets. If not utilizing a shared parking scenario, the public parking area being provided at the PD would need to be sufficient capacity to accommodate up to 50 people in their new community meeting room and training classroom. It is always prudent to separate police vehicles from public vehicles. The traffic flow needs to take into account current traffic circulation from the library, Center Street, Main Street, and the available sight lines required for egress along the existing curve on Center Street. Item 13. The attached plan shows police parking backing up to the existing Bog Road cart path. In response to that, this connection is indicated in the plan, but in my opinion, would not be necessary. Item 14. This road they're talking about the Bog Road now, the Bog Road cart path. This road may also be used as an unpaved emergency entrance exit for redundancy with the main police entrance exit. Alternatively, it could be paved and used as a one-way entrance to the station while reserving the South Police Drive as a one-way exit. This is perhaps safer if a police vehicle has to respond to an emergency. The existing Bog Road cart path exits onto Center Street along a curved section of roadway. This would not be a safe condition to utilize for entering or exiting emergency responders. On the screen is the plan that was prepared and presented with the letter by Mrs. Hewins. So this is the plan that we are comparing the proposed solution to versus comments where we've created in reference to this plan.
Good evening. I'm going to take this question. Number 15. The plan separates the library playground traffic from station traffic. Traffic flow to the playground and the library is a known factor and is working well. My comment to that is traffic is currently working well, and I don't see the new plan changing that. I don't see a problem with traffic behind the library at all.
Item 16, this plan leaves that unchanged, but a reconfiguration like the one proposed by the building committee that adds two-way police station traffic to existing playground and library traffic may negatively affect traffic flow and safety while costing much more. In response, I have to respectfully disagree with Mrs. Hewins. In my opinion, the building committee proposed solution will improve traffic flow and safety to and from Center Street and to and from Meadowbrook Way. Due to a shared parking solution with the library, costs for providing adequate parking capacity to the site would be lower, not much more. Number 17, site distance on Center Street site was Site distance on Center Street site has been identified as a concern in all previous police station studies over the years about locating the police station here. And this is referring to site distance. It's how far you can see when you're pulling out onto the street, how far can you see left and right. And site distance is critically important when siting a police facility or any new facility. The existing roadway curve along Center Street is a real concern for egress access and aids in defining a preferred building placement solution. The building committee solution addresses that safety concern. Item number 18. This plan solves the site distance issue with Center Street. Minimal tree cutting shown next to Center Street will give 500 feet of site distance to the north on Center Street to exiting police vehicles, making a left turn out of the main police exit entry. The solution proposed by Mrs. Hewens does not solve the site distance issue and presents an unsafe vehicular solution for public access and egress onto Center Street. The proposed public entry point is within a one-way drive to the rear of the public library. The question is, how is access achieved from Center Street? Number 19. The remaining trees shield police parking, impounded vehicles, and outbuilding from street view, shield the view of impounded vehicles and outbuilding from the playground, and shield the view of the station from the homeowner north on Center Street. The building committee proposed solution also achieves these goals by placing these components behind the new building and screened from view by new fencing and trees.
Number 20, our police chief was very insistent that we owe it to the taxpayers to watch every dollar spent on the project. I've spent my career as your police chief making sure that I live within the means of what the town can afford. This project is no different, and that is why I wrote the letter in early December 2018 to the town stating my support for the approved plan. This support is unwavering, it is the best plan, and for that matter, the most economical solution.
You're up, 21. Maybe I do. This plan saves approximately $250,000 on the cost of a rebuild, the playground, and an undetermined amount that the plan presented by the building committee at the 12-3 public forum required for additional parking and roadway configuration. That's you.
Oh, I might have answered this one.
I think you did.
As previously stated by the professionals, the alternative plan presented by Mrs. Hewens does not conform to zoning setback requirements and needs to be moved further north, thereby changing the configuration. Further, her alternative plan does not save approximately $250,000, so I disagree with this conclusion.
Yeah, 22 too.
Yeah. Number 22. Keeping the Carver Community Playground where it does not prevent the town from improving or rebuilding the recreational area at the King Fields. I'm in agreement with that statement. The proposed improvements to King Fields has been identified as a potential to improve the recreational offerings for the town of Carver and is being pursued and funded independently of the police facility project. The Board of Selectmen has voted to address the playground relocation and provide an equal or better solution if the existing playground area is utilized for police facility development.
Number 23, tree clearing and site preparation will be less than $40,000, probably much less. The work related to the clearing of the site would need to be publicly bid as part of the police project. Although there have been tentative numbers discussed, once a true scope of the work is determined based on the construction documents, this project would need to be competitively be bid, meeting the prevailing wage requirements. The fact is that the cost of this work would actually be determined once the bids have been received. The cost of providing utilities to the station will be approximately the same either way. This is not entirely true as well, because depending on the location of where the building and the configuration of how it is on the lot may change the way the gas and electric may feed the site. The distances of how it's provided is determined by the electrical companies, and the back charges associated with this work would be provided. 25, the Police Building Committee had said publicly that every month we wait to build a new police station costs approximately $35,000. If we leave the playground where it is, we'll not only save $250,000 for the cost of the rebuild of the playground, we can start the new station tomorrow and save $35,000 a month on the station's construction. First of all, I was the one that had said it's a $35,000 savings, cost per month for every day that the project isn't out to bid. Those costs are escalation costs based on real numbers that we encounter every day during bid process. There has been no delay with the design of the police station. The work related to the playground is currently on a parallel path, and the playground design is expected to be completed before the police station construction documents are complete. To ensure there was no delay with this project, the Board of Selectmen voted to move forward with this plan. Mrs. Ewan's alternate savings of $250,000 would not be accurate. If the project was bid 7 months sooner, which it's physically impossible, it would have that savings.
Item 26, the plan proposed by the Building Committee and passed 4-1 by the Board of Selectmen is much more expensive than the one attached or other alternative plans and provides less to our police department. The Building Committee proposed solution addressed the needs of the Carver Police Department and is endorsed by the Carver Police Department and its Chief of Police. To indicate that it provides less is not factual, and I adamantly disagree. In my opinion, it will provide more to the town of Carver, the Carver Police Department, and the Carver Public Library. Costs for the proposed project have been estimated by 2 professional cost estimators. While the cost of the building will remain a constant based upon alternative plans, the cost of site work may be higher if the facility was relocated to the north.
Question 27. It was stated by at least one member of the Police Station Building Committee that the Carver Community Playground is almost never used. I'm not sure who made this statement. However, the Public Station Building Committee understands that the playground is used. There was a statement that the playground is used less now that the playgrounds are open at the elementary school. Despite the lower usage, the committee is still focused on supporting the Recreation Committee in building an equal or better new facility to meet the changing needs of the youth. This is all facts from the... Okay, 28.
29. Why the new police station be built on top of our playground? In my professional opinion, and this is after 30 years of experience designing, planning, and overseeing construction of over 80 public safety facilities, the Building Committee proposed solution achieves the highest and best use of available land to provide for the needs of the Carver Police Facility and the Police Department in a safe and attractive manner. I did not receive any local guidance in this decision-making process, but stated my opinions to the building committee based upon experience in this building type. I remain steadfast that the building committee proposed solution remains in the best long-term interest of the project and the community.
I'd like to go back to 28 because I think that question got missed, and I want to make sure that we incorporate all of them. It's number 28. It's unfortunately needs to be on public record that the police station building committee minutes of 12/3 public forum about citing the new station on top of the playground appeared to be manufactured. The minutes reflected of the meeting per the open meeting law are not meant to be or required to be a transcript of the meeting. We encourage people to watch the video. It would be the Secretary of State that can only make the determination, not someone that did not have all of their quotes recorded in the minutes. Again, this is not to be meant as transcribed minutes. Number 30.
Number 30, the town administrator has repeatedly stated that the playground can't be next to the police station because of the possibility that sex offenders registering with the police department would come into contact with our children. This is correct, as it is one of the many real concerns that when added up and given what I know goes on in a police station, or could, I do not believe the police station should be located next to a playground in Carver or any other town. Times have changed. Bad things happen at police stations, both inside and outside. We guard against them, but they do happen.
Number 31, the consensus at the 12/3 and 12/4 meeting by the members of the public was sex offenders / vandalism activities at the playground are greatly increased. If the playground is moved away from where it is now in public view by the library to a less visible / more secluded location behind the town buildings at the King Fields. There was never a vote or poll taken to determine general consensus. The best thing is to hear directly from the police chief and let him tell you the activities that actually occur in a police station along with his concerns related to this issue.
32, sex offenders and other criminals tend to avoid police stations unless they are forced to appear by law enforcement, in which case they will be accompanied by one or more police officers. This statement regarding sex offenders, they are required to register annually, but we do not escort them to and from their cars. I believe the rest of the question was about arrested people, and yes, we do escort them in. Number 33, individuals brought to the station for arrest will be transferred directly to the non-public part of the station through a closed interior and secured entry physically separate from the public. The design of the station does incorporate a sally port to facilitate the secure transfer of prisoners from a cruiser into the booking and holding area. This will provide for a far safer method than currently employed. However, the best security measures do sometimes fail. Number 34, while there is a possibility of loud and aggressive argument occurring in the police station public parking lot, there is also the possibility of a loud and aggressive argument occurring in the playground parking lot by the King Fields. The major difference is that police intervention, if necessary, will be much quicker to arrive in the station parking lot than it would be at King Fields. We've experienced aggressive arguments outside the police station on a more regular basis than we do at King property that require police intervention. The police department parking lot is a location specified by the courts to exchange children involved in parental custody matters. These matters are often emotionally charged and have resulted in domestic disturbances requiring police intervention in the parking lot.
Item 35, if bad behavior in the police station public lot is truly a concern, there is enough space on the site to relocate the public parking lot at some distance from the playground and surround it with fencing. The building committee has more than 8 acres to work with, enough to accommodate 2 stations with twice the parking without moving the playground. Bad behavior in a police station parking area is a possibility, but not the norm. To mitigate negative behavior, the site area is under video surveillance and requires lighting at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Fencing of the public lot is not recommended. As stated previously, the available land for development, if the playground facility and walking trails are to remain, and all other site restrictions calculated, the remaining land is less than 2 acres. I am not aware of how you have calculated available land as more than 8 acres.
Number 36, in my opinion, the town administrator's repeated insistence that a police station is too dangerous a place to be near a playground is magnifying a small concern into a major concern to provide an excuse to move the playground since there is no other logistic or financially sound reason to move it. I'll start by saying safety of our children is of paramount concern, and I do not think we should disregard the real safety concerns based on what does occur at a police station. These concerns should and have been evaluated and given appropriate weight in the decision to recommend the moving of the playground. That exaggerated concern would also indicate that a police station is too dangerous a place to be next to the library, which is just ludicrous. Again, I say buildings do provide much more protection than open, fenced-in areas.
Number 38, many neighboring towns have playgrounds next to their police stations. While this statement is made, it's not supported by any data or facts. It is not defined by what is meant by next to their police stations. In my over 30 years of experience in public safety facility design throughout New England, I cannot identify any that have a community playground directly adjacent and or in close proximity to their police facility. This is my experience. It may not represent all police facilities in New England, but the ones I have been involved with do not have community playgrounds next to their police facilities. 39. A proposed police station has been shown the playground's engineered site plan for the past 18 years. The town administrator's exaggerated concerns didn't appear until the public challenged the building committee's decision to build the new station on top of our playground instead of next to it. While I was given a copy of the proposed site plan, Carver Municipal Playground, Center Street, dated June 21st, 2000. I was given the plan only after conducting a thorough space needs analysis and proposed site plan to support the identified space needs and site needs of the Carver Police Department. While the proposed site plan correctly identifies a new building of approximately 12,000 square feet, the building configuration and site needs expressed on the plan do little to satisfy the needs of the department. In my opinion, the proposed site plan was not developed with the needs of the police department fully vetted, identified, or adequately solved.
Our police chief has been insistent that the new police station be integrated into the community, not isolated from it. Correct, and this is what the approved plan accomplishes, as the police station is built in the center of the town with proper access as a focal point of the community. Number 41. That's why the proposed station building plan has a community room and parking for 30 visitors. The chief has also said publicly that he intends to invite children to the station for the Junior Police Explorers and other youth programs. That is correct as well. And those children would be in the company of police officers who would be instructing them in those courses and able to protect them if the need arose. Number 42. The goal of integrating the police department with the community indicates that the playground should be next to the station. As your police chief, and as a father whose children have played on the playground, based on the real activities that go on at a police station, and the future plan to train police officers in law enforcement tactics in the secure rear yard, I would not recommend placing both on the same lot. Number 43, we want our children and their caregivers to know and respect the officers who keep them safe. Correct, and that is what this plan accomplishes.
Item 44.
That would be me.
You want to take that one? Go ahead.
Sure. We don't want our children to be farmed out to a remote location, out of sight, where they'll be less safe. I would 100% agree with this statement. However, there was no site that has been officially selected for a new playground. The fact is the entire campus is being looked at as possible locations. Additionally, no one has proposed to place children out of sight where they will be less safe.
I'll take 45. Why must the new police station be built on top of the Carver Community Playground? And the word must was underlined with emphasis in the correspondence. And my conclusion is this statement is not accurate and has never been stated by me. What I have concluded is that the building committee plan utilizes the available land to its highest and best use. Other alternatives have been drawn and they have been discussed. The plan proposed by Mrs. Hewins has also been reviewed and discussed. While other alternatives are available, the town of Carver has established a building committee to determine a highest and best use for their community. While there can be dissent among citizens, I have been hired based upon qualifications and experience and have given my opinions for consideration.
Number 46, the public deserves an answer to this question. Over the past several weeks, the information requested has been presented. Our team and the committee have provided detailed responses to Mrs. Hewins' concerns in several of our meetings. This effort tonight is to eliminate any further misconceptions being perceived, along with providing some final clarity with every issue. As an elected representative of the public, I have been asking this question of the building committee for the past 2 months, but have not received an answer. Response: every question related to this issue has been discussed at previous meetings, with Mrs. Hewins present at public meetings along with the committee. Number 48, I've been criticized by the town administrator even for daring to ask the question. I'm not sure where or when this occurred. It has always been this committee and a team effort to ensure each voice is heard. Each time a question is asked, detailed narratives are given to help explain the actions taken by this committee. Number 49, it seems to me the public is being railroaded into a bad decision that's damaging our community and is financially irresponsible. I believe the design team, the owner's project manager, and the police building committee is doing all they can do to ensure the town of Carver gets the best facility for the police department. Each decision is not made lightly and specifically involves minimizing the cost to the town of Carver. Okay. This is our last chance to change course and do the right thing for the Carver Police Department, our community, and taxpayers. And I couldn't agree with her more. I think at the end of the day, the town of Carver deserves a new police station, and that's the whole reason why this committee was put forth. The difficulty and the challenges that we've had by looking at a number of different designs as far as locations are concerned will always be a challenge and a difficulty for any town that we encompass. I think at the end of the day, a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of experience have been put into the decision of putting the playground relocation in process and having the police station at its location. I encourage residents at any given time during this process to engage with the committee, to express their feelings, and I think that's what makes America great, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, I think this team has put together an exceptional plan and the best plan for the town of Carver.
Well, in summary, I actually encourage this dialogue. I think it's good that the citizens are out wanting to know what's happening and how decisions are being made and how we've been involved with those decisions. We have started this project with the town of Carver in last July. So we've had a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, and not all of the comments can make it into meeting minutes. But the best way to learn about the decisions that are being made was to attend the meetings. They are public meetings, they are available, and I would encourage you to come and listen and make informed decisions about the decisions that are being handed down by the building department and the building committee. I'm not here to bash Mrs. Hewens. I am not here to have any hard feelings about the questions that were asked. I've just been here to try to give you my opinion on the answers. So nothing personal in any of the responses, because that doesn't serve anybody any purpose. I'd be happy to talk about any of these comments or answers further, but I would like to say that back in October, we did present the building committee with multiple options to place the Carver Police Department on available land adjacent to the library. We were given actually two sites to consider. One was the available town-owned land next to the library, and the second parcel that we were asked to investigate was the existing police department site. So we actually gave proposed solutions for both sites, not just one site. The existing police department site, while it was reviewed, it was kind of quickly dismissed because of available land and the ability to maintain police services through construction. The cost of that, or the cost of phasing a project, was found to be prohibitive, and that site was discarded. So we were concentrating our efforts on the available land next to the library. What you see on the screen is what I called proposed scheme A. And that proposed scheme A left the playground in its current configuration and current location. This was done in an early stage after I sat with the police department and understood their requirements and site needs. This was done as a concept for discussion. And we discussed scheme A, we discussed the pros, and we discussed the cons. We also showed them proposed scheme B. It's taking the site, which is to the north of the playground, and now we're rotating the building 90 degrees. We talked again about the pros and the cons. We did not at this time have a survey of the property. I was not fully aware of the bog road requirements for and access to the wells. We looked at best use of access and egress, but we also talked about visibility in the community, placing it at this location. So all of that was discussed for scheme B. And then I presented scheme C. And I guess it's one of those, if you see something, say something plans. Because when I was reviewing the site, I saw something. And I felt I was obligated to say something. I understood that it was going over a playground. But I saw something and I was obligated to say something. As you can see, scheme C, I was concerned about the playground because I was showing that the playground was being relocated still and maintaining its presence on this site. But when we talked about the objectives of the project and the benefits for the downtown of Carver, the accessibility and the access off of Main Street and access off of Center Street, and the potential to utilize a shared condition with the library for overflow parking, accessible public parking, segregated staff and fleet vehicle parking, a lot of this Scheme C made sense. Again, it was a committee decision. We talked about it, and we vetted it. But at the end of the conversation, the building committee last October felt that Scheme C had the greatest potential, not just for the site, but for the town and the police department. We were given direction to continue to propose solutions along this line in Scheme C. So this was, what you see here was drawn last October. We've developed that site and continued that thought further. And from October, we have also incorporated into the proposed concept an improved condition for vehicle traffic exiting Main Street and moving on to Center Street. You can see in this plan there's some dotted lines which shows the expanded roadway that currently exits Center Street onto Main Street. We can improve safety at that intersection. We can improve visibility at that intersection. We can improve efficiency of parking and vehicular circulation through the library site by now making that a library entrance and exit, where currently that is only serving as a one-way exit for the library. So the only entrance for vehicles to get to the library right now is off Meadowbrook. This now provides an entrance to the library parking off of Main Street and Center Street. You're no longer having to abide by one-way traffic and do not enter signs at the library. And we talked earlier about the shared benefit of public parking and library parking. So if there is a need for the library to have expanded parking, it's provided by the police department project. If there's a need for the police department to have expanded parking, it's provided by the library project. When we have talked about 30 spaces for public, we're providing a 40-seat meeting room. A 50-seat meeting room. So for 30 spaces, we were trying to accommodate a public room to seat 50 people. Now, we all know that how many people came alone in their cars tonight, or how many people came 2 and 3 and 4 to a car. What would happen if the 50-person meeting room requires 50 cars? If this was a separate lot with 30 spaces, we would have to consider where would the overflow parking go. And the overflow parking would not be accommodated within the staff area of fleet vehicles. That would be a safety concern on the police department. This plan accomplishes that shared concept. It keeps the police department parking to the rear of the building, separated and secured from public access. The police department entrance and exit is located directly across from the existing curb cut going into the existing business along Center Street. That intersection provides for another safe configuration, so vehicles exiting the building or emergency vehicles exiting the police department are aligned and safe and can be visibly aligned. This takes the curve along Center Street that exists and the curve that minimizes sight lines, it takes the curve out of the equation and leaves that area as trees, and it provides a continued buffer for residential properties that are located further down Center Street. The line that you see dotted in front of the police department is your required zoning setback requirement. You've heard about that tonight. While the building has property lines, we also have to respect building setback lines for zoning. This project does that, and this project as proposed, we do not propose or plan any variances required for this development. It meets your zoning requirements that have been established within your community. Those are just some of the reasons why Scheme C was talked about and further developed. I'm sure the building committee has more that they can add as far as the conversations that we've had, and the police department can add more conversations about why they feel this is a benefit to their department and for the community. But it gives you a little bit more insight as to some of the items that were talked about, some of the concerns, and some of the vetting that was done to place it at this location.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak now. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my concerns as a police chief and the concerns of our internal building committee on some of the safety aspects and some of the reasons why I don't believe it's the best idea to co-locate the police station on the same piece of property as the library. That information from some of the stuff I've seen out there, and I've talked to the people, we've had varying degrees of whether they agree with me or not, but I want to provide the information to everyone tonight from my standpoint as your police chief with 24 years of experience, from the standpoint of my internal building committees and the information that I've gotten from them, and from the standpoint of other chiefs of police that I've spoken to. As we started this, we talked on how difficult it was for us to make this decision to decide to move a playground. As you all know, Carver Police has a very strong community policing approach. We've been working on that hard for the past 5.5 years, and we've made a lot of progress in increasing our public trust, and especially in dealing with the youth of our community. We've incorporated the Junior Police Explorers program. We're partnered with YPAC. We do Carver Night Out every year. We've done a lot to make sure the youth of our community is taken care of and held in high esteem. So to move the playground, a playground that's been there for 18 years, a playground that my children have come and played on when I've had to come and work here on the weekends, that provides a lot to the community, was a big decision, and it took a lot for us to come to that decision. Again, the building committee, the part that I brought to the building committee and Sergeant Burial brought to the building committee and our internal committee brought, was to talk about what we do at a police station and why, what we need in that police station, why we want to locate it in the center of town, why it needs to be a certain size, what we need to do inside the building, and what we need to do outside of the building. So based on those facts, we presented those to Mr. Humes, and he looked at the areas around. He talked about the different options that he gave us, and we came to a decision that the best place to put it was where the current playground sits. Some of the things that came up, or part of the reasons that we decided to move towards that, are safety factors. And I heard at the forum when somebody mentioned the sex offenders might be dangerous to children there. People kind of snickered at that and didn't think it was a big deal. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to tell you what we really do at your police station, what goes on there every day, day in and day out. So let's start with the sex offender comment and a comment about having a shootout in the lobby. I think that those are blown out of proportion a little bit in that I've done this job for 24 years and I've never seen a child be kidnapped off of a playground by a sex offender, but I've read about it. And I've never seen a police station lobby shootout, but I've read about it as close as Eastham in 2006, where a disgruntled person walked to the police station and shot the front of it up. So it does happen. We have sex offenders in Carver, like all communities do, and some of them are very, very bad people. Matter of fact, there's one that's now back in jail due to the diligent efforts of our police officers who kidnapped a young 15-year-old girl in the late 1990s and was captured by the police with her in the trunk of her car. That man lives in this community, although he's back in jail due to our efforts, but he lives in this community and he will be visiting our police station. A police station, some of the best people in the community come to, and all of the worst come to. And there are things that do go wrong there. We regularly bail out and release protective custody people from our station. Those people are sometimes disgruntled or may still be intoxicated and have to be taken out with a family member or not. That's real stuff that goes on at our police station. But again, those first two things are probably small, and they've got a somewhat weight in the decision, but they're probably not going to happen in our community. But we're still going to armor the walls of the lobby so that they're bulletproof in case something like that happens. And we're still going to take all the precautions that we do currently with our sex offenders. But what does actually happen is our police station, as many in the Commonwealth, has become a location that judges like to use as a custody drop-off location. When parental custody drop-offs happen, those are often very emotionally charged situations. And I can tell you, not on more than one occasion, they have broken down into very volatile situations requiring the police to intercede and sometimes even make an arrest. Now, if we decide that we're going to co-locate the police station next to the playground, the children playing on the playground on a Saturday afternoon may witness this happening. As a father and as your police chief, I don't believe that that's something we really want to have our children witnessing. They're loud and they're scary, and they might be witnessing their schoolmates being dropped off by their parents in a custody thing and have that turn into a bad situation. So I don't think that's a good idea. One of the other things we've done, incorporated into the building of this police station, is to take a look at what we need to be doing for training for our police officers. Times have definitely changed over the past 24 years that I've been doing this job. And we're required to, and we spend a great deal of time making sure that we're prepared to respond to an active shooter in the school, or town hall, or a church, or anything else in town. The skills required to be ready for that need to be constantly trained on. We don't currently have that ability in the police station that we have, and we couldn't add that ability in the police station we have due to its size. The plan for a secure backyard, as I discussed in my letter back in December of 18, will allow us to bring the firearms training trailer in, and will allow us to construct some training facilities out of shipping containers that allow us to use what's called simunitions. They are firearms that shoot a small paintball. That lets our officers conduct what's called force-on-force training, meaning we can have a real bad guy and a real police officer interact in a manner that that the police officers learn how to properly go through a doorway, how to properly get that person out of a situation, or how to enter that room and deal with that situation. That type of training is loud and is not something, again, that I think that we would want to expose our children to listen to from the playground. And the plans that we've looked at leaving the playground in place do leave that as a possibility. And I just think that that's a bad idea, and I believe that as we move forward, our parents will not want to see their children to see that. And I think that if we don't incorporate that type of training ability into our police station, then we are not getting the most out of the money we're spending for this police station, that we are getting less than that. So if we can't accomplish that goal of being able to train in the backyard and do so on a manner that happens on a more regular basis than if we had to travel to some distant training area, then we're missing a key point to what a modern police department does. We have to have our officers up to speed on making those decisions and how they're going to do it, and they have to train on it more than once a year at just normal firearms qualifications. Having a secure backyard against the wood line will allow us to do that without affecting anyone, without causing distress in parents or children on the playground. And I think it's a key feature to this police station that I don't think we've talked about enough as we move forward. We're going to spend a great deal of the taxpayers' money to build this building, and I think we owe it to the taxpayers to get everything we can out of this police station and its location. I said at town meeting that I wouldn't spend $1 more on this than we had to, but that I would spend every dollar we had to. That's my definition of economical, getting everything we can for the dollars we're spending. And I truly believe by taking this opportunity to move the playground and build a police station on that location, we accomplish that goal, and we accomplish the goal, the unintended goal, I guess, of refurbishing the playground, moving that forward, and helping to create a better recreation area and a better downtown area. I think that these factors should be considered in our decision before you tonight as to the location of the police station and why we wouldn't want to locate it next to a playground. I've spoken with many of my other fellow police chiefs about this discussion of location, and to a T, everyone has said, well, you can do it, sure. But if you're making a plan, why would you plan to put a police station next to a playground? If it's your only option, yes, you can make that work. But if you're planning this and you have the ability to do it, why would you want to do that? So after going through all that, I've had a chance to talk over the past month or so with a lot of people. The one thing that I'll say is, and I'll thank everybody for being here tonight, everybody, regardless of what side of the decision they're on, supports building a police station for the town of Carver. And I'm very happy for that. I think that that is unifying in this. And I believe that whatever decision we make tonight, whether it's to move the playground and build the police station there and follow the advice of the building committee, or it's to disregard that advice and build the playground, build the station north of the playground, whatever we decide tonight, we're going to make work. I think that we've brought you the best location, and that is to move the playground and put the police station there. And if we choose to make that, I know as a community we can make this happen. I know we can build the police station, and I know we can move the playground and make it better. I hope that that's what you'll go to with tonight. But if you decide that you want to move the plan and build the station on the north side of the playground, at the end of the day, we'll make that work as well. We've been making the building that we're in work for a lot of years. We've been constantly asked, our office has been constantly asked to do more with less, and we've done that. And we continue to do that, and we will always continue to do that. So no matter how this decision goes, no matter how you vote tonight, no matter what comments we hear from the public or from anyone, your police department stands ready to continue to provide excellent law enforcement services to this community. And this building, wherever we build it, will help to do that. Thank you. And again, thank you again for everybody coming and everybody taking the time to tell me how much they support building the police station. I know we can accomplish this together.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe that since I'm apparently a person on this agenda as having caused this meeting to happen, I think it would be appropriate for me to be able to read some of my response to what they said.
Sure.
Thank you very much. First of all, I do want to thank you all for addressing all those questions. It's a lot of questions, and I really appreciate that. Some of the questions I asked and some of the answers are clearly now moot because now we all know there isn't 8 acres up there. There's 8 acres, but it's not buildable. So some of those questions were really unnecessary to answer, but I appreciate your having done that. My main concern here is that the entire process, as far as, in my opinion, has been flawed from the very beginning. None of the posted, I'm just going to say the PSABC committee meetings, until the one for this particular night, even mentioned the word playground at all. So no one reading these agendas would know that the playground was going to be discussed at a meeting, and so of course no one attended. All the posted PSABC agendas also contain an extremely vague agenda item, such as, quote, any other matters to be discussed by the committee, end quote. In the October 16th agenda, there was also no mention of redesigning downtown Carver Town Hall complex. Yet the meeting minutes show that the committee discussed an apparently new mission statement, quote, the concept of a planned town hall complex study, end quote. The Attorney General has ruled, and I have a couple of the rulings here with me for anyone who's interested, in the past that under open meeting law, this kind of language is not specific enough to allow the public to figure out what's going to be discussed at a public meeting, and it does not give the committee permission to discuss items not on the agenda. I and others became aware of these potential open meeting law violations several weeks ago, but we didn't go to the Attorney General's office because we were interested in fixing the problem, not in causing the building committee problems themselves. I'm only bringing these potential violations up now because I believe these vague agenda items and lack of specific topics to be discussed on the agenda needs to stop going forward for the sake of public transparency. I'm also concerned that there was no explicit permission from the 2018 town meeting for the demolition of a functioning and popular municipal facility, and there was no permission to expend funds to plan a new recreation center complex or to redesign our town center. It seems to me, it's just my opinion, that the committee exceeded what town meeting and the residents as a whole intended when we voted for a new police station. The original surveyed plan of the site and the original engineered site plans that were done for our municipal playground committee and that I myself have posted on Facebook have been called fake news. I'm sure the surveyor and the engineer who put their professional stamps on those plans would be very surprised to hear that they're fake. However, using those same professional site plans, the committee also produced several plans that used what appeared to be more than 8 acres of buildable land. This was before the site was resurveyed recently and shown to only have 1.9 acres of buildable land, although there's still 8 acres of land up there. At least 2 of the committee's plans preserve the playground's play structure, and I believe you mentioned that, Mr. Hume. One moved the playground to a different spot on the same site. The committee instead chose a plan that built on top of the playground, and the only reason given for this decision in their meeting minutes was that they both felt this had a, quote, better village feel, end quote. Since the committee's decision, I presented the committee with several alternative plans that were based on the same professional site plans. And it seemed to me that every time I tried to meet an objection with a possible solution, I was given yet another objection by the committee. So first, it was the cost of clearing the site. And just as a minor correction, the land clearer gave me a quote simply for cutting, chipping, and stumping the trees at $20,000 for 2 acres. I wasn't getting a quote on all the other things that you guys obviously were. So I was very specific about what I was asking for the quote on. And what's actually on the video recording does say that it was that much for the trees. And then it was 30 public parking spaces. And then there was a concern that the public parking should not be next to the playground because it would expose children to a fight in the parking lot or worse. Then it was that the building didn't face Main Street. And then it was that the building wasn't visible from Route 58. Several times I met these concerns, again, given the site plans that I had to work with, where we all thought there were 8 acres available, by showing plans that gave solutions to all those issues. Then it was the issue of encroaching on the neighbors to the north on Center Street and removing a right-of-way on a bog road. Excuse me, none of the plans I showed did either one of those things, but at least 2 of the committee's plans did. And the committee's current plan actually puts the public parking directly across from the children's room at the library. And I know you've tried to address that, Chief, but anyway. The numbers that both I and the committee used were real numbers from site plans drawn by professionals. And now, fortunately, we have a new survey from a professional registered land surveyor, Arthur Borden, and his sketch plan actually shows us that there's more wellhead protection area that's needed, 6 acres, than the original 4.5 acres that the 2013 police and fire station study stated. And it shows that the playground was laid out slightly differently from the original proposed plan. In my opinion, it would have helped all of us a lot if the committee had resurveyed the entire 13.4 acre site much earlier in this process. While there is, in fact, quite a lot of usable acreage on the site, those acres do not amount to the 8 acres we all thought were buildable. And there's a big difference, as Mr. Borden pointed out to me. Nevertheless, Mr. Borden's new sketch plan shows the police station and playground coexisting on the same site. If there are objections to the precise placement of items on that sketch plan, we have enough buildable acreage, 1.9, to reconfigure it and still have space for more parking and future expansion. I'd also like to address Chief Dufley's public safety issues. I believe the chief knows that I have great respect for him and for his department, and that I'm definitely in favor of building a new police station. And I also respect your points that you made as our chief. But I also have to point out that there are many towns that have their police stations located next to the playgrounds, and to other recreation areas for children. Over the past 2 days, I found 21 cities and towns so far: Abington, Auburn, Bedford, Blackstone, Boylston, Bridgewater, Canton, Dalton, Eastham, Easton, Fall River, Falmouth, Halifax, Hingham, Orleans, Pembroke, and at least for the past 26 years, the former Middleborough Station, Rochester, Watertown, Whitman, and Woburn. The cities of Fall River, Watertown, and Woburn, and the towns of Boylston and Canton are the most notable. In fact, Woburn upgraded a playground in 2011, placing the playground about 20 feet from their existing police station. Moving our playground community park from its current location beside the library to a more remote location behind town buildings could possibly result in a greater possibility of sexual predators stalking our children, a possible greater likelihood of vandalism, and a greater possibility of other illicit activities. Finally, let's keep in mind that demolishing and rebuilding the playground will cost the taxpayers an unnecessary $250,000 to $300,000 in CPA money. This may be under the tax levy, but CPA funds are tax dollars, and those funds are limited. The whole point here is if the committee takes a serious look at Mr. Borden's sketch plans or at any of the reconfigured ones that I actually have here based on his new acreage when he's resurveyed, showing the 1.9 acres, they do work. Plans for the police station could move forward. We wouldn't be waiting on town meeting approval to fund a new playground. There would be no added expense or time to demolish the existing playground. And more CPA money would be available for ball fields or for other projects for the Community Preservation Committee to approve as they see fit. Thank you.
Questions from members of the board? Comments? Mr. Dunham?
Yes, just to double check here. You said if we were to move the station to the north, 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever it is, we'd be incurring an extra $286,745, correct?
Correct.
Where would that money come from?
Out of the construction budget.
So we'd have less money to build the station that the chief needs if we go ahead and have to take that over $250,000 out. Now, the money for going through the CPC funds, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's money that's already been set aside. They have a bank, they have accounts they have for portable housing. They have a separate account for historical, and then they have monies that are for recreation. And it's my understanding, they can't take money from one pot and put it into another pot. Is that a correct assumption?
Just for clarification, they can't take money from the CPC and put it into a building project like this. They can move a little bit if it's unreserved money, but generally they have to put 15% into each category. And right now, we have 900,000 in the recreation, 400 in affordable housing, and 200 in historic preservation.
Okay, so that's money that has, that's just sitting there with nothing assigned to it.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions.
Mr. Townsend?
For the committee, when you compare Scheme A with Scheme C, and we talk about visibility, we talk about the parking plan, we talk about the plan for the Sally Port, we talk about future expansion. Is any one of those items better on Scheme A than it is on Scheme C? It seems to me from your explanation, Scheme C is more advantageous in all ways.
Yeah, in my opinion, the Scheme C gives you an advantage in all of those areas over Scheme A or B. Trying to create a building for the Carver Police Department that is visible for the community is something that I always strive to do. And it's not so everybody can just find it. I think people in Carver's will know where it is, and they could probably find it very easily because they're local. But the people that need to find the police department may be out of town, or it may be people not familiar with Carver. This building will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. Having it in a visible location, supporting your downtown, village community feel, I feel is a strong supporter of our Scheme C. The lights that are required on this facility also have to be taken into account. If we move it further to the north, I agree with the chief. We can make it work. But those parking lots for both public and staff will be lit, and will be lit throughout the night. We have to keep those lots lit because they're all under surveillance, and the surveillance cameras need a certain required amount of foot candles for the surveillance cameras to actually operate and to get information off of the surveillance. So we do have to light these lots. So visibility in the community, the impact to the neighborhood, the accessibility off of Route 54, and the overall cost of the project all have benefits.
58.
Oh,
Route 58, all have benefits if you were to locate it according to Scheme C.
thank you.
Mr. Robertson?
I don't have a question. What I do have is a comment. I'm on the police station advisory board as a representative of the Board of Selectmen, and I have followed this through completely from the very beginning, the very genesis of the group, and I've heard all of this. What absolutely sealed it for me, what nailed it, that it had to be at Site C, if you will, if you want to represent that. Can I get up to the, and draw a little map with my finger? I didn't wait for an answer there, I was just going to do it. So, can you go back to A? So, here's 58, and I talked to a police chief in Middleborough, and I wanted to know a lot of things about buildings. But one of the things that he told me was that when somebody is looking for a police station, they're in a hurry, and they may have kids in the car. Okay, it's a scenario, we could go through the statistics and the data to try to quantify my statement, but this is what he told me. If somebody is heading south on 58 and is looking for a police station, they're gonna go by this, what is now a lawyer's, it used to be a bank, they're gonna go right by, and they're not gonna be looking in back to see where this place is. So go to C. Good. What they'll see, once they get to the bank, to that lawyer firm, they're going to see that police station. And the roadway is going to be developed in such that they can get to it quickly and easily. And for me, that was the selling point when I saw that, and it was brought to me by a police chief. So it's just an added point to the point C being the best spot. So I didn't have a question, but I wanted to add. Thank you.
Sarah, did you want to add anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, a couple other points. I mean, we've heard that this has been really vetted well, but you know, just as a comparison to when we did the elementary school, I can remember many nights sitting in here, having PowerPoints and all kinds of discussions about 3 different sites in town for putting our elementary school, and the cost of doing it there, or why it wouldn't work there, or why it would work here. It would work here, but it's too expensive. And a whole complex discussions about that, and even a public presentation about renovation versus building new. So all of that was given in front of a camera. It was in public presentations. And again, I know that that the point is that people could have gone to the meetings, but for better or for worse, the word playground wasn't on the agenda, so there wasn't really a reason for them to be there. I don't know whether all these scenarios have been discussed with your committee. I presume they have, but the public really hasn't heard that in the same way we did with the elementary school. And another point that I just wanted to add, that the cost for cutting, chipping, and stumping was a cost given to me at prevailing wages. So that was I know that you have to do that as well. So I think what you're suggesting, my number was being so low, it's very clear that, it was very clear what a number I was talking about, what answer I got to that. The only other thing that I just want to comment on is the town administrator suggested this is about politics. And this is the furthest thing from politics, I think, that I've ever seen in this town. And that's a good thing, because it's not about politics. It is about our community. And I don't think there's one person in this room who does not want to see the police station. This is about asking questions, getting answers, or asking questions and not getting answers, or not asking the right questions because we didn't know the topic was being discussed. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just before you start,
Yes.
we seem to be coming back to the stumping, grinding, chipping, and all that. The impression I got was that's really for the overall cost, increased cost of moving it further to the north is a fairly minor point, because you're talking about the paving and the preparation and all the different layers you have to do for it. out of the whole 286,000, so you're talking less than 10% is tied up, maybe like 5% is tied up with cutting the trees and chipping and things like that?
And if I could just quickly, Alan, interrupt on there, I beg your pardon. My whole point was that at every step in the way, when we were both working off the same plan, where we thought we might have 8 acres, and how do we configure this, every time I tried to offer a solution, something else was thrown out. So here was a problem. It's going to cost too much to cut the trees and do that sort of thing. Here's a solution. Well, that's not the reason. It's the parking. Okay, well, here's another solution. Now it's something, and then it's this and it's that. And that was my point, that it seemed like, I'm not even sure to this day what the real reason is, although a number of them have been suggested. But that was my point. I'm not harping on the cost of cutting trees. I'm simply saying it would seem to be one thing after another when the questions were asked. I tried to offer solutions with the information I had, and that was it. Just kept coming.
So if I may I just want to follow up with that, the answer on that. The problem with just throwing, and I agree with you, with just throwing out a single item or two items isn't an accurate statement to do. The bottom line is there are many components for the early site package to move the building 250 feet, 100 feet, or 50 feet. The tree clearing is the first step of that process. So, without a solid plan to actually do some costs correlated with that scope of work, it's premature to even throw numbers out there, because once a number's out there, it gets thrown and it gets held on to. The bottom line is that, I want to refer back to your question about, whether a knockdown renovation ad was discussed, and it was discussed at length. And we did the cost analysis to determine whether it was a pro or con to do a ad reno to the existing location. But as far as the practicality of whether it met the police needs for their operations was a main deterrent why we didn't do that. There was also discussions that once we abandoned that location, there were different configurations of placing that building and new construction. So to answer your question, it was pretty vetted at every single meeting. The problematic part of it is that the public wasn't there, as you indicated, upon the notice.
That was my point. Thank you.
That's the point I'm trying to make to you. So, and at the end of the day, it is only a small portion of it, but it's all based on the conceptual drawing that would have been put together initially. That's the point I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I just had a couple of points.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, could I address
Oh,
one?
sorry. Yep.
Sorry. If you don't mind. Ms. Hewens, thank you. Your initial comments before, you mentioned how much you respect me, and I appreciate that, as well as I respect you and all the members of the board for what they do. And we've had discussions through this process. You brought up that there are 21 police departments out there that are situated near.
Maybe more. I don't know. That's all I could find in 2 days.
So you brought that up, and I suggest that I support your desire to go out and find solutions. And I've listened to them. I think you can speak to that, and just like we both listen to them. But what I would say is that I don't know those police chiefs. I don't know the Fall River Police Chief or the Watertown Police Chief to speak to them. But I do know a lot of police chiefs. Our field is full of police chiefs with their own opinions on what should happen and what shouldn't happen. Every police chief that I've talked to has told me the same thing. Yep, you can make it work, but why would you do it? I would respectfully say that maybe we should talk to those 21 police chiefs and find out what they think about being next to a police station, next to a playground, because I would imagine they probably didn't have much say in that happening, or that it was there before. And I would also suggest that our police station is unique in that it's being designed to have a rear secure yard with the express purpose of training. I don't know if those police stations have that or not, but that would be a big consideration as to whether you'd have a playground. So I respect what you've done, and I appreciate it, but I just want you to hear from me that I have talked to a lot of police chiefs, but not those, and certainly I will try to. But I would suggest that I believe that they would tell you the same thing. If they had their choice, they would not build a police station next to a playground.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Hume, my question is, the building design that was settled upon and recommended by the Police Station Building Committee, the size of it, am I correct that that would not fit on that 1.9 acres? Without
think-
having to make modifications?
I think we represented that the building itself would fit on the 1.9 acres. There's a lot of other site amenities that go
Well,
along.
that's what I
with
meant.
the
I'm
building.
talking about the whole design, including all the amenities and everything that the chief and the committee wanted. All of that could not be accommodated by the alternate site.
I have not done that analysis. I know that we have an analysis from Mr. Borden that places the building and the requirements for parking and the outbuilding and the impound lot within the 1.9 acres that are available. When we did our space needs assessment and our site needs assessment, we had concluded, before we even put pencil to paper, that the minimum lot size requirement for the Carver Police Department was 2.2 acres. So we were looking for a site of 2.2 acres or larger to satisfy all the needs. And that was printed, that document was printed before we even came up with scheme A, B, and C.
That's what I was
So
getting at.
At 1.9 acres, you are pushing right up against the playground, walking trails, and right up against the playground, gym equipment to make that work.
Just a couple of things, Sarah, just to your point, you mentioned that how quickly things sort of came from the point when it was revealed about the playground versus when the votes took place. But I would still go back to my earlier point that since then, it's 2 months later, and we're now reconvened after there has been considerable debate publicly through social media, so that at this point, I think it's fair to say that there has been a lot more extensive awareness of the fact that the playground is affected than perhaps what initially took place. And then to your comment that the committee overstepped its bounds by starting to talk about relocating the playground and so forth, my impression always was that they did that to try to, in recognition of just how significant it was that they were offsetting the existing playground, and they were trying to reach out to the community to make up for that. I didn't think that they deliberately were overstepping there.
It wasn't mentioned on the agenda, Ron. That was my point. There's no way the community could have known that they were even talking about it.
I understand, but I think the intervening 2 months now has made that sort of moot.
Yes, but, people need to know that, because a lot of people might think, not everyone might be as involved as some people in this room, but there may be people who would think, they might hear, well, you could have come to the meeting, and they'll think, oh, gee, I should have come to the meeting. You're not going to attend a meeting if it's not something you're interested in. That was my only point.
And then I guess I feel we just sat through an extensive, went through a lot of the concerns Sarah expressed, and they were answered. And I think ultimately for me, the thing that influenced me the most especially if you've done the site walk, if you stand behind the playground and look straight across, you see Route 58 and the fire station. If you walk across to the fire station and look straight across, you see the playground. And Mr. Hume, at the meeting on December 4th, during the presentation to the Board of Selectmen, spoke to how important, from a public safety standpoint, the visibility of the station is. And that's what concerned me and probably impacted me more than anything else. So that, that from a public safety standpoint is still important to me. All right, concluding Selectmen's questions, we'll now turn to,
Any from the committee?
did the committee want to add, anybody on the committee want to add anything else?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just a couple points that were raised that I do think needs to be addressed. One is there was alluded to that the expansion of the town hall complex and the recreation playground design money was not something that was approved by town meeting. At our building committee meetings and at the recreation committee meetings, it was been made perfectly clear that the additional funding for the addendums that we had to do to Brian's contract for both looking at the broader perspective, as you eloquently stated, when we identified that there was a problem with the playground, those funds came out of project management account. Those did not come out of the police station building account. So those came out of a project management account that we have within the town administrator's office for both of those change orders. In addition to that, I do want to emphasize one other point that I think has escaped us tonight, is the plans A, B, and C that you saw up on the screen, those were presented to the committee in October. In October, Plan C had the playground just relocated, but it was still there. It was not until we had the revised plan that we had our meeting in December, which was the revised one that was blown up there, is when the committee at that point began really discussing the playground move and what that would impact with the town hall complex. At that point, or shortly thereafter, the chairman, co-chairman Bill Harriman, I believe, reached out to Mark Townsend, who was on the playground committee years ago, and had a discussion with him with, I think it was Dave, you might have reached out to him as well. And following meeting out to Mark Townsend, there was also then reach out to Sarah Hewins, who we knew was also on the playground. So that reach out took place in November when this plan started to come forward. And again, it was a natural evolution. That's how it happened. The minutes were posted appropriately. If there's an issue with the minutes, the Secretary of State can opine on that.
There's no issue with the minutes.
Or with the agenda, then the Secretary of State can opine on that, but those were properly posted in accordance with the regulations to how the town of Carver does its minutes.
Actually, the Attorney General's office deals with posted open meeting law, and that includes agendas.
All right, we're going to move to public comment. We're going to try, I'm holding everyone strictly to 3 minutes. I'd like to go, if we have the appropriate amount of people, I'd like to alternate and have someone speak that is for the project and against the project. So can I see a show of hands?
Ron, I think this is against the location or for the location. Everyone is for the project.
I'm sorry, forgive me. Sir? And when you step forward, if you could give us your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Rob Reardon. I live at 30 Priscilla Mullins Way with my wife and kids, where I've lived for the last 20 years. We all see things different and are entitled to our opinions and feelings. I know many of the people in this room on both sides of the issue. The personal attacks done by those behind their keyboards are wrong and hurtful to many people. The daily misinformation on social media causes needless fighting and has had very negative effects. One of which is the chair of the police station building committee, who I know personally has taken a leave of absence because of the turmoil. This longtime resident has donated countless hours volunteering with 2 other major town projects, the school and the fire station. I will remove personalities from my opinion. I love what this town has done since I moved here. New library, fire station, school, sidewalks, streetlights, and more. We have made a big investment into Carver. When I think about a new police station, I want it done right. I want a police station that is accessible and visible to the public. The playground is obviously a topic that people are passionate about. Many people put tremendous time and energy into the playground. My 2 boys and I spent a lot of time at this playground. My sons have also grown up playing for years on the baseball fields. There is nothing my wife and I would have liked better than to have the fields right at the playground. On any given weekend, those fields are filled to capacity with families. The games are watched by many siblings that could make great use of a nearby playground. I have talked to many families who all agree that a playground and ball fields belong near each other, like many other towns already have done. I personally love the campus idea for the area. I see a future of cleaning up ball fields, basketball courts, soccer fields, possibly adding a snack shack and more parking. We made an investment when we decided to live in Carver. It's important to have long-range plans and not be short-sighted. If we are going to spend millions of dollars on a police station, I think we should put it in the best possible spot and go on the recommendations of hired professionals and the building committee members. Let me be clear that my wife and I both support the police station and the moving of the playground. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there someone that wanted to speak against this location, the relocation? Ms. Ryan?
You mean again? Oh, well, I'll be quick, all right?
Well, I want to make sure both sides are heard. After we exhaust that, if there's someone that wants to express a neutral opinion, that'll be fine, too.
It's kind of neutral. actually.
Come on up, Dagmar.
Dagmar, use the microphone.
Dagmar Ryan, 14 Lillian Way. I've been hearing a lot about big picture, and I agree now that we shouldn't put that police station there next to the playground, for the same reasons we probably shouldn't put it near the library. But I think after hearing everything, we dismissed the King property too quickly. The King property is deeded to the town, but you can use it for anything, not just ball fields. And I went to recreation committees too, and people always want to redesign the ball fields. And I have the deed here, Mike. If that police station's going to need a lot more space, I think, that actually that place next to the library might offer. The King property on the left, we shouldn't renovate the police station where it is. We should maybe build it next to it, and I think they could live through that and utilize the ball fields where we need it. There's 29 acres by the high school that they were thinking about putting the elementary school there. Why don't we use that and make a real Fenway, little Fenway, look that up, Mr. Dufley, make a real complex, because the ball fields are running out of room and the police station doesn't have room. That's town area. You could either, all right, so if you put the police station where it is, but don't renovate it, build it next to it while, you're still doing police work, then you can go into the ball fields, because we're not moving the pumps, and you can either relocate the softball field, or you can move around the Little League like they want to. And the police station will have tons of room, won't be near a library or playground, won't even be near residents really if they want to light things. They'll have a lot more acreage to use. And then we can start from scratch and really build a really nice softball Little League recreation area that possibly we could share a snack shack with the high school, because it's behind the bus garage and up that way. So it would actually solve, and we wouldn't have to clear trees. You just see this area, I don't know if you can see this part here. There's a lot of asphalt and there's parking, and we could use how we talk about co-parking with the library, you could co-park with the town hall. And it was just I was walking around this weekend, and I was starting thinking, because I'm thinking big picture, long-term, best possible use of the whole town. Maybe that's something that we dismissed too quickly. I'm not saying renovate that old police station, the thing's a pit. But what I saw in my limited knowledge, and when I went on all the plans and I looked at the deeds, thinking, why, if we can get rid of the playground, why didn't they think maybe we could use part of the King property? And maybe, like I said, if the softball isn't related to Little League, maybe we could use that other area. And it's more than like swings and slides. I mean, it's really not that old. It looks good. It was clean and neat. People were using it. It's a community park. So I don't think you can just replace that with a couple of swings and slides in between the parking lot, between the ball fields, which you're going to ball people, you're going to run out of parking. It's so small. Let's think big. Let's really think about a good recreation center maybe on some other land. Let's put that police station right smack in the center of town where it is. You don't have to knock anything down. You can use the pumps. And it's the same building. I think you can use 12,000 square feet is the same footprint as a library. Footprint meaning not up and down, but footprint. And if I looked at it properly, I think there is room to build 12,000 square feet next to where they're doing business now. All right, I probably used too much time, I'm sorry.
You just hit 3 minutes.
Oh, all right.
You got your watch out.
I do. Someone else want to speak? We'll take someone that objects to the location. Yes, sir.
I want to speak. Whether I object or not shouldn't matter to this committee, nor should it matter to anybody else out there.
Okay.
My name is Cornelius Shea. I'm 148 Plymouth Street in Carver, and frankly, I don't like being objectified, as seems to be the case here. You're separating
No, sir, I just want
Well,
to try to make sure
you
both sides
clearly
are
did.
heard.
Well, then everybody should be heard,
I
correct?
did not say no one else would be. I wanted
That's
to
right.
make sure
Well, if
those on each side
everybody that
were
wants
heard.
to be heard,
Sir,
is this my
please
3
speak.
minutes? Is this my 3 minutes?
Talk to me,
I'm talking to everybody.
okay?
If everybody that wants to get heard gets heard, it shouldn't be a problem. What I would like to say is, the police department does not deserve a new police building. They deserve the respect and support of this community. They need a modern facility. They need a modern facility that meets their needs in order to keep this town safe, that meets the needs of the community. Outside of the playground, it's not an issue. I'm not here to say one way or the other on that. I think this town has already made up its mind. The town hall complex has clearly been in the works by this administration for some time now. I'm here to talk about the fact that this project is being underfunded. I understand nobody wants to raise taxes, but if you're going to do something, you do it right. And it would, up until the COA was removed last year at before town meeting, this project was severely underfunded. This project is barely squeaking through with what it needs and what the police department needs to get done on this. A lot of the controversy comes from the fact this town has not been open. It has not been clear and concise to its constituents. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the flow chart starts with the citizens, rolls down to you, and then it rolls down to Mr. Milanowski over there. The day before the selectmen voted on this, there was a public meeting where they asked for public input and comment. That was clearly a dog and pony show because no changes could have been made before the selectmen had their meeting. There are far greater concerns in this town, and it shouldn't be directed at the police department or the police station. I am in firm support of giving the police department everything they need to do their job. And had this town been thinking forward, it would be across the street where the fire department is, because the police department has been in far dire need of new facilities over the fire department. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Mr. Belbin?
Robert Belbin, 26 Gate Street. I respect you totally. All right, you're an awesome person, great chief. I feel the playground should stay where it is. I do have some quick comments here.
Thank you, Mr. Belton.
You have the utmost respect.
Thank you.
Same with a lot of the officers, respect for them too. This has nothing to do with anti-police or anything like that. All right. Some of the issues here is zoning changes can be made and variances be given to move it closer to the street. The right-of-way can be moved or eliminated. There are other avenues for access to Center Street and Pond Street from that back property. How many parking spots does the police really need for the public? I think they don't need as many. Training and classes can be used in the fire department. They have a huge area in back. The basement of Town Hall has a huge area down there too that can be used. So they don't really need a big, large meeting area. Children at the library will be able to hear and see the same issues the chief has already stated. Will the cost truly be under the levy limit for this station? How much more in tax increases will there be? The numbers went out there up to $7 million, and we don't have that. Where it's going to come from? Our pockets. Lighting will allow better visibility with a plan A. Better signage along Route 58 can direct people where it is. With visibility, Hanover Police Station, Hanson, and Plymouth, they're not in the center of towns. I use my phone to find them. I know them personally anyways, but no matter what, anywhere else I need, I look. Here's my phone. This is the police station. I find it. We have GPS on my phone. Okay? moving to the proposed playground area to the ball fields, I feel will have an increase in damage and a lower lifespan due to the cleats from the players going on those different items that you have down there, and the longevity of them are going to decrease. So I think that keeping it at the station, move it over, all right, there are alternatives that can be done to increase the visibility. If it's going to be lit up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days, guess what? That's going to be the one big thing that's going to be lit up besides the walkway out here. So people are going to be able to see it in the fire station. That's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am. You, Donna.
So I'm Donna Marie Forand, and I live at South Meadow Village, 27-8. So I was just thinking, if my father was alive today, he'd be 95 years old. My father was a police officer in the town, and he actually worked out of the station that's presently there. So that, keeping that in mind, that's my perspective. And I think Mr. Robertson's father worked out of there as well. Keeping that all in mind, I do live at South Meadow Village, and we have 500 residents there that live there. I am aware of a resident who had an emergency and chose to drive to the fire station. They arrived at the fire station to find that the fire station is not manned 24/7. So keeping that in perspective, they had an emergency, a medical emergency, and having the police station in a visible area that's set to be planned, I think that's important to keep that in mind, because it would be visible for emergencies. And that was a resident that didn't realize it, and we've all been talking about non-residents driving through, but that would happen to be a resident that couldn't find an emergency help when they needed it. Also, hearing about this $250,000 it would cost to move the station over, and I have to actually say that I think the $40,000, the police, if they had to, would volunteer to cut the trees down. So keeping that in mind, I would say it would be $200,000, not $250,000. But putting that all aside, I really, I also have a concern for children as well. I was a licensed daycare provider for 12 years, and I would not want children to be in any danger, and whether it was from sex offenders or not, or from going in and out of the police station, I would want them to be protected. And also, keeping in mind the lobby of the present police station, as a visitor to that police station, it's very small. And if you're going in and out of there, if there was ever an emergency in the lobby, you'd certainly find yourself dead, because it's way too small. That's all I have to say. And I do support the plans that have been set forth for the town.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir?
Good evening, Steve Pratt, 16 Weston Street. I've been a resident of Carver since 1983. I want to go back a little bit for a little history for everyone, if I could. It seems to be my forte, but 30 years ago, we built the new high school in Carver. That was something that was proud of us that we built, and I think it's something that we all can say. We all had, who those who were here had a part of that. But then we ran into a problem, We had a debt exclusion. We had a 20-year debt bond for that school, and we couldn't do anything else. And so fortunately, in the mid-'90s, the state was kind to us and gave us some equity aid, and we were able to renovate this town hall, which for anybody who remembered walking in here in the early 90s, it's not what it is today. And then we also had to take care of the sheet metal building out where the gazebo is. Oh yeah, that was our library. And we used that same equity aid money to build the beautiful school over there with help from the state and the federal government. So, you know, here we are. We were 25 years ago that we built these. And then we decided we had a problem at the Governor John. We got too many kids in the Governor John, too many sixth graders. We got to move them. Well, we just built a new high school. What do we do now? Oh, we have to build a sixth grade wing. Oh, and we have to build a new gymnasium for the new middle school that we're going to have. And we have to expand the cafeteria. And we did all that without raising taxes. We did all that within the tax levy. And the town did that. But then we ran into our bigger problem. We ran into our fire station that was 57 years old, built in 1957. The police station built in 1975. We built all these other, you know, things, and now we can't do anything. So 20 years ago, we started talking about building a new fire station and a new police station. And we have committees, and we have Chief Harriman, and we have Chief Skoog, and then Chief Parker after him, you know, her, and trying to do something there. And we fail time and time again. Town meeting approves it, voters turn it down. Then we say, well, it's a school turn. Let's try the school. Let's do the elementary school. We try that one. We fail. So now we have to come to 2009, and we have to say, what are we going to do? So after the 2010 town meeting, it was decided we're going to try one more time for the schools. But the town Board of Selectmen said, we need to come up with a better plan this time. We need to come up with a financial plan on how to do this. And so you asked members of the community, myself, Dan Daly, Dan Ryan, Paul Duff, and Roger Shores, to do the Town Building Study Committee. And we did. And we were given 6 months to do it because we were told we had to look at all the buildings in town and had to decide what we needed to do and come up with a plan. And we came up with a plan. We presented the capital building stabilization plan. And Mr. Milanowski has expanded that to the point where, you know, now we are building things. We built a new fire station. We were able to remove from the conversation so we could build a new elementary school. We're talking about building a new police station under the levy limit by utilizing the monies that we've set aside to pay for bonds, to pay for debt. That's where the money is going to come from. It's not going to require, you know, doing a debt exclusion. And if it does, it has to go to the voters anyways. It's not something the town can just go spend. But I think the important thing here is that we've all worked together in the community in the last 10 years to bring us where we are today. And the Roby property was always discussed, whether it be the Collins Center study, whether it be what we looked at the town building study, whether the master plans talking about what properties we have available and whether or not we should have a community center next door, you know, to replace, you know, the building that's way down in South Carver that needed millions of dollars to put in. We've talked about this for years and years. And whether or not the police station is next to a playground, which is next to the library, you know, we talked about the whole phase-in process over there. And that was a critical decision. Move the fire station first, build that, because they needed to operate a fire station at the same time. And we were going to do that with the police station. And we always kept saying to them, don't you want to look at the Roby property? And, you know, time again, it was like, no, we're going to build here, we're going to do it. And it's because they didn't want to worry about having to come back to the town and saying, we need more money because we're doing this in phases. I think it's the right thing to do to build a new police station over on the Roby property. Whether or not you have the playground there or not, that's for you to decide. But it's important to recognize you need something visible in the center of town, and we need to clean up this side so that we have the possibility of a future community center and future playground and future ball fields. Whether or not you keep the existing one, build another one. Build another one. But the point is, it's your decision to make. So I just came here. I know I used my 3 minutes. I'm sorry. But I didn't talk at the December 4th one, if you remember.
Just a little more.
Anyways. Thanks again for your time tonight.
Sure. Anyone else? Mr. Ward?
You gotta pardon an old man, my thoughts skip around sometimes. Dick Ward, 20 West Street. I've listened to a lot of different things, but I've come down to one point, and that was where we are right now. And I do want to respect everybody involved. Sarah's a good friend of mine, and most of the people in the audience, and the chief, and anyway. I'm looking and I'm saying, what is, if we prioritize, careful now, prioritize our values, what do we have to do first? And I'm thinking we got to deal with the police station. That's very important. And as I look at a place, I'm driving by the Hanson Fire Station, right on 58, front and center. If I'm driving down to the regional refuge in Marion, where you take the big things, and that police station is front and center on Route 6, where people can see it. So I'm looking back at our fire station, and I'm saying, if you put it down the street from Scheme C, Scheme C is more front and center towards 58. You start moving it down Center Street, and now the police station is on Center Street. And so I'm trying to consider all the needs that the chief and other law enforcement folks have mentioned. Then I got to thinking, okay, now take a walk over to the park, and I did this the other day, but I did it back a while ago with my granddaughter. And the park now is 17 or 18 years old, and it's starting to show a little bit of wear. The slides. My granddaughter went and got about 2/3 of the way down and stopped. So I decided, I went in my truck and got a little armor all and went, and she went right off the slide. I know that wax isn't going to stay on there, but what I'm saying is I looked at other things there. And then I've dealt with the school with our new playground equipment and the new generation that it represents. And I'm thinking, you know, if we rebuilt and renovated our playground, we could place it with better equipment, great for the families and kids, and possibly in a more accessible site for families, and you can see it. So I'm just trying to hope that our town will improve our playground and build our police station on that site C, is it? The one that faces primarily right to 58. And I detect that, you know, if we go to a town meeting and the folks that don't want to move the playground pack the town meeting and prevent any money from being spent from the CPC, does that stop our police station and the construction of it? I worry about that. So you got it, folks.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Never done this before, so excuse me for being nervous.
Just your name and address, please.
Maria Asbestos, 23 Bates Pond Road. I just want to say, I guess part of my thing is to the process. When we voted for the money for the police station, which I know we all agree we need a new police station, we weren't told that we were going to be destroying the existing playground. We spent a lot of money on that playground through town meeting, through the CPA fund 18 years ago, and then renovated it 3 years ago. So it's not really 18 years old, and I think it's very durable. The kids enjoy it, the families enjoy it. I think moving it to the baseball fields is just going to be a mess. It's going to be very overcrowded. I think, you know, the point about the cleats being tough on the equipment is going to be definitely a factor. I also want to know, and I think I agree with Dagmar, where I think that property next to the police station over there is been dismissed too quickly. I had asked about a feasibility study for the options of the different sites, and I had sent an email to all of the selectmen, and I got 3 back. I know everybody's busy, but 4 back, I'm sorry. And 3 of them were boilerplate answers, didn't really give me the answers I needed. And I wanted to thank Sarah Hewins and Bill Harriman, who was then the chair of the building committee, of the police building committee. They did answer my questions. And Bill Harriman said, we don't have that answer yet. We're hoping to get it at the January 24th meeting. January 24th meeting, I was there. The only figures that were discussed were the approved plan. There was no discussion of any other options or any other feasibility studies for any other options. I just feel like that needs to be done for the property, over near the ball fields. And I think that's really very important to be done for any sites that we're looking at. And I'm hoping that that will be looked at before this decision is final. Now, as far to your point of having these 2 extra months with this January 28th meeting, unfortunately, I think that was too late in the process. I think, people didn't know what was going on. And by the time that date at the recreation meeting, and I believe Mr. Dunham had gone up and said there's going to be this meeting, by that point, everything was done.
No, because we're
Well, not
reconsidering the
everything.
vote tonight.
Well, not everything, but the process had moved too far along at that
Well,
point.
again, we're reconsidering the vote tonight.
I understand. I'm just saying, you're right.
And
I
Ms.
appreciate
Hewins
it.
had the schools send out an email to every parent about the meeting tonight.
I didn't have the
I don't
schools
think
do
so.
anything, Ron. I asked the superintendent, and he,
You approached the schools and asked them to send it out.
correct.
Yes.
That's called
It was a-
getting information out to the public for transparency reasons. And he did not allow me to mention the word playground.
I didn't
Yeah,
suggest you
It
did.
was a PSA announcement that was just stating that this was going to happen tonight. My daughter did get it. But I'm just saying, I appreciate the 2 extra months, whatever it was, that led us here, because it allowed me to get more informed and a lot more information. I just wish that it had happened much earlier in the process, so people could have been more involved in the building committee meetings, in the recreation department meetings, all of those things in a much earlier phase. That's all. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir?
Hi, Andy Cottarelli, 19 Pope's Point Road. Hello, everybody. I just want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight and giving us both sides of the story, something that doesn't always show on social media. Maybe some of you might know that I'm a member of the school committee in this town. I'm also the creator of one of the town Facebook pages, not put up by the town, but it's one of the 2 main ones. And just something I've wanted to say about civility. And I've watched a lot of the back and forth on this. And I've tried to stay neutral, as I'm also one of the administrators. I created this page, it's the Everything Carver page, as a free flow of speech and ideas, Carver-centric ideas, to get people involved in the community. What I don't like is the demonization of people and personalities on either side. And I've tried to talk to people about that. And I've tried to bring people together without kind of banning anyone or putting anyone down. So I just would like to give people a word of warning on that. Just sometimes the worm can turn quick on, you're the one doing the criticizing, but you can turn around quickly because before you know it, sometimes might be posts out there about you that your friends and family have to read. And it's not pleasant. So I try to have sympathy on both sides with this, without stifling anyone's speech. On the issue at hand, I will say there's no doubt that we need a new police station. Everyone knows that. The gentleman to my right, Chief Dufely, is one of the most upstanding people I've ever met. When the horrible shootings in Florida happened at the school down there, that same day, I contacted him, and I just said just a few words to him. Just said, we need to talk about preparedness at schools. And he said, absolutely. And we were talking that night, and we met soon thereafter. Then we had a forum, and he hosted the whole thing with the police department. And if this man, let me back up a little bit. I'm not one for wanting to spend extra money we don't have to spend. But if this man, your police chief, says there's an actual concern, and he's concerned about our children being at that playground right next to the police station, you can take it to the bank. He has the town's best interest in mind, and he always has. So I'm in full support of whatever this man and the committee supports. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carver.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Peg Hayes. I live at 144 South Main Street. I've been a resident here for 33 years. I just want to say I absolutely have nothing but respect for our police department, for our fire department, for our teachers, for everybody who puts their hard time and energy into things for our town. I love this town very much. That being said, one of the biggest things that I'm hearing, I'm a nurse, and 3 of my days I spend in the elementary school with a patient. And so I spend a lot of time with the kids, the teachers, the playground, the different places around town. I also have a granddaughter in the school now. I have to tell you, I guess from the bottom of my heart, there is a very, very large contingent here in town who are feeling very disenfranchised. Some folks literally look as if they've just like heard a dog whistle, their head cocks. They just don't understand why we're going to tear down the playground. They're not here. They might not be watching the television. A lot of them maybe are putting their kids to bed. A lot of us, everybody here works, but we're all a little bit older too. So the younger parents, the ones who are, a lot of them just can't be here for whatever their reasons. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they don't love the police station. They don't even know this is happening. And I want to share that information. I am not well-versed in getting information out. I probably made some mistakes. I'm sure I made some mistakes because I'm some of those Facebook posts that people get a little upset about. I'm coming from a good place. I'm coming from a place of I care for the children. I respect our police. I respect our fire. I respect everybody here. I have nothing but respect for everybody here. I need to feel that we're all being respected too, and I'm not the only one who's feeling that way. There's a lot of people feeling disrespected, and they're not feeling like they're a part of this. They're feeling like we are being overrun with a wave that's coming at us, and you can say, okay, you didn't get it to the meeting or you didn't get here or there. I don't know what to tell you. There's a ton of people who are just as upstanding as anybody in this room who don't have all this information yet. So I'm not saying I've got the answers. I'm just trying to share with you that there is a void. And what Dagmar's idea and some of these ideas here today are just like so eye-opening to me. I'm feeling like this is a done deal. I'm feeling like I know you're saying you're going to vote on this tonight. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not seeing what you're saying, and I'm just being honest because that's who I am. And
So could I, if I ask you a question?
Certainly.
So you heard everything tonight.
yes, I did.
And your feeling is that the arguments in favor of locating it on the playground did not dissuade you from feeling that we should not move the playground?
No, sir, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, I'm just asking
It
whether or
isn't.
not you
No,
were
no, no.
persuaded by what you heard tonight.
I understand more of your point of view, much better now. Chief DeFilly's point of view, I understand it much better for coming and hearing what he had to say. And I'm hearing that. It's actually making me, I feel we should put it out to a vote for a different location. It sounds like there's not going to be enough room, even if you take the playground away. And my other huge concern is we go ahead, we put it on that space, we take the playground away, boom, where is the new playground going to be? And where's the money going to come for that? And why are we putting a square peg in a round hole? Why aren't we considering the other property? I understand you guys have done a ton of work. I understand it. I respect it. Why aren't we looking a little further? What is the absolute motive behind this?
And Peg, wasn't your other comment that for most of the people in town, a lot of people in town, especially the younger families, that they may not even be aware this is happening?
I'm absolutely certain
Or if
with
someone
every
doesn't have
cell in my
cable.
body that there are so many people who don't know. People that I even work with, I am semi-responsible for some of the things on Facebook about the posts about the I supported trying to get it out there. I went to superintendent's office and asked if we could put this. He did not allow it. Nothing was said about the playground. I'm sure I made mistakes, but I almost felt like I had to do something because I don't know what to do. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. I guarantee you. There's hundreds, if not thousands, that are going to feel the same way. I'm not pretending to speak for all these people because I don't, but I just, no.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peg.
Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Dan Badger, 165 Plymouth Street. First, I wanted to thank all the presenters for everything that was laid out in terms of the information, why decisions were made. I appreciate that. It has caused me to change my opinion on of the best options of where the police station should be placed. The main reason why I decided to come up and say anything wasn't based on where the police station should be placed. It's mostly been my concern about the process. The lady who spoke just before me started to allude to issues with the process in general and the community not being heard. Now, some comments have been made during the presentation regarding responses to Sarah's questions. Sarah asked this, Sarah asked that. These are questions actually that were, that Ms. Sarah Hewen made in response to community concerns. So they weren't Sarah's questions, they were community questions. So that's something I found to be fairly, when each question was presented, they were made in a rather redundant fashion by professionals per question. It was clear that everybody answering the questions were professionals, and everybody hearing the answers understood what the word professional meant. And so it did smack of being a bit dismissive of the questions themselves. So that was something that struck me just as a person that doesn't have any skin in this game, just a citizen. So the other issue I had was with option C, with everything that was laid out with option C, in terms of concerns of having also a training facility, having a backed-in fenced-in area, understanding a need to have a tactical response center for training. Absolutely important. I absolutely agree with that. To the point where I would say that would render option A, B, or C inadequate because there's not enough room for those things. I believe that we should open the process up again, despite the fact that the costs might increase. What was the $35,000 per? What was that? Per month. I might suggest, just for not to sound like a Monday morning quarterback here, but I might suggest that if the process was a bit more transparent and more open, we might be having this meeting perhaps a month or two ago, rather than have it be prolonged. But again, the biggest concern isn't, obviously everybody here wants a new police station. It's an important thing. I very much just
I appreciate the added training facility. It makes me feel better as a father, knowing that the police department has taken into consideration adding a higher level of preparedness for training. That's something that's very important to me as a father and as a concerned citizen. But again, I like to see efficiency with the process, and I'm not sure that was actually something that was in place. I know that a previous meeting I was not dismissed, but it was mentioned that, if you have a question about that, go ahead and look in the minutes. And my question, this was at a recreation meeting, and it wasn't, I didn't so much feel dismissed, but the fact that I decided to take that person's advice and go ahead and look in the minutes, and the issue of the playground and things like that were not considered in any vote in any fashion. So I'm sure I've taken up my 3 minutes by now. I just wanted to say for both sides of the issue, I do hope that this serves as a tool for maybe making the process a little bit more transparent next time, and also that we do consider opening the option to actually make the facility one that is a 50-year plan out, in a location that is other than where it's being looked at right now, because I don't think that that's going to actually be big enough. I'd like to see actually a bigger space. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
Good evening. My name's Michelle. I live at 4 Woodlawn Drive. I've been a resident of Carver for 6 years. So I just wanted to speak to the fact of the young families. I think I am among the few here. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old. I wanted to say that it's not that we don't care. I wanted to come to many of these meetings, but a child gets sick. My husband gets home late. It's just an impossibility. That being said, we turn to people like Sarah and other people in the community to speak on our behalf because we cannot be here. So I wanted to sort of piggyback on what the gentleman said before me. These are not her questions. These are the concerns of the town, and she is a face that we are familiar with and comfortable with. So we bring these concerns to her. So I applaud her for being up here, facing all of these questions on her own. Based on the 3 locations, honestly, hearing the input, I would be more likely swayed to go with Site C because of what the chief has said. My child plays at that playground on a regular basis. I want him to be safe. But I would choose Site C over the 3 options presented. That does not mean that I would choose Site C over the other available options. I know nothing about what else was discussed, the site that might be near the police station right now. And I don't want to delay the process because you've already been waiting forever. But I also don't want to make a decision too quickly. And I know I heard a gentleman in the background say, how would we reach families like me? You can't go knocking on door to door. But I know about this because I happened to bump into Sarah at a story time. And I happened to one night have a chance to look at that email that the school sends out. I don't get to read that every night again. It's not like it was 50 years ago when one parent could stay home. We all work. We all are juggling way too many things. So I guess I don't know the answer to get the word out there more, but I think that it could get out there more. And to your point of having 2 months wait, I'm glad that we kind of stopped the line here to come together, but it should have started before. It got too far, even though we haven't made the decision. Again, it feels like as an outsider that the decision's been made, and this is to sort of placate? Yeah. Placate, that's the word. Just kind of appease us by saying, okay, we've heard your questions, we've answered your questions, but really we're going to move forward anyway. So if I could say anything, it would be, thank you to all of you for representing us in your own way. And if we could get more information about the other sites, that would be my input. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Tom Lindsay, 31 Quaker Road. One of the words I've heard quite a bit is community and what's best for the community, and yet we're going to tear up a community playground in order to shoehorn in a police station that is definitely needed, and I support the police station. I don't agree with the spot it's being chosen. Getting in and out of the police station off Center Street doesn't make sense to me. Seeing, somebody propose over by the ball fields, building a police station, makes a whole lot more sense to me. You have more available space. The training facility that the chief's talking about, and I'm guessing the noise or whatever with the playground, but you're gonna have that noise outside a library, which is a quiet area. So that doesn't make sense. One question I have is, we're hearing Sarah's name spoken a lot by citizens, and I want to know why that is. How come the other 4 selectmen, aren't being talked about? Sarah seems to be the only one who communicates with the people of Carver. And one question I have for Mr. Sullivan, you threw out a figure of the $286,000 if the playground had to be moved. Is any of that money already part of putting the police station in, or is it all additional?
It's all additional right now.
Okay. That was it?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's additional.
Anyone else? All right, well, I've got to ask the question, although you're never supposed to ask a question if you don't know the answer, but the King property, was the area where all the ball fields are ever considered as part of this process?
Or was it surveyed?
I'm just asking whether they considered the King
Yeah,
property.
but it's hard to tell, as we found out, because we didn't know the exact acreage on this playground site until it was resurveyed. So if it was considered but not surveyed, maybe that's something we need to do.
At any rate, my question is, was the King property ever considered as part of this?
As I said earlier, we had 2 properties that were considered. One was the existing police station facility and the police station site, which includes what was available, but we didn't infringe on the playfields. We didn't infringe on the EMS facility, and we didn't infringe on the refueling facility that's to the rear. We considered tearing down the existing police department and rebuilding it in its current location. And we also considered building new construction adjacent to the existing police station, so they didn't require relocation during construction. If we were to tear down the police station and then build a new police station in its current location, we would have to find a scenario and cost to relocate the police department during construction. That's relocating all of the facilities, all of the dispatch center, all of prisoner processing. And we looked at costs of doing that, and costs would be prohibitive compared with new construction. So then the second thing we looked at was building adjacent to the existing police department, so the police department could continue to operate during construction, and new construction would be adjacent. Difficulty there was we have limited available land. With all of the amenities that you have on that site, we looked at traffic circulation coming off of Main Street, coming adjacent to the fire station, leading back to the ball fields. We looked at available parking and the parking that would be impacted over toward the King property. We did not take any scenario that impacted the existing ball fields. Again, we didn't take any approach that impacted the existing refueling center that's in the rear of the site, because those are amenities that would cost money to relocate, and they're functioning and in place and seeming to serve all of the needs, just not of the police department for refueling, but of other town vehicles for refueling. So yes, we did look at that site. We looked at 2 scenarios. About the survey, we took the same approach with the I'll call it the King property, as we did with the playground site. We took available data that was available to us through the assessor's office, through GPS mapping, through aerial photography, and we utilized that information as our base plan. The building committee did not want to spend any money to do surveys until we had a viable site that we wanted to progress with further cost impacts. When it came time to recommend a survey be conducted, at that time it was Mr. Borden that came forward and said that he was available to do that at no cost to the town, and he completed that at no cost to the town, and we have that information for the site adjacent to the library. So does that answer the question?
Mr. Chair?
No?
Mr. Chair, if I may. So Brian, I just wanted to be clear that when we went to do the playground on the old Roby site, we also looked around for a variety of places in the center of town to have this facility. And we were fortunate to have the original survey plan done in '94 that showed us the acreage that was there. So in essence, we had the survey already done before we went and got the engineered plans done. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, Dagmar, but I think part of the suggestion that she and maybe some others are suggesting is that we might want to actually get that site surveyed. I mean, because we obviously found out the information about buildable land on the playground site was quite different from what we originally had thought after a survey was done. And so I think the suggestion's been made here that if we looked at not only just the town hall complex land, but the King Fields as well, and just see what we have to work with, because it's all town owned. But we can't just do that with GPS and so on. I mean, I wouldn't pretend to be able to do that, and I'm not saying you're pretending, but I know you're using the tools you have. But I guess what I'm suggesting is that we don't know that area is going to work or not, because it hasn't been surveyed.
It has not been surveyed, but utilizing the available data that we now have for aerial photography and utilizing that with assessors mapping, we could be pretty accurate to know what's available on that site. We know what zoning setback requirements are.
Yep.
We can be very accurate. What we don't have accurately is topography. Well, we know boundaries. We can get boundaries very easily now through GPS data that's available. So we know boundaries. We don't necessarily know all the topography, but we can visually look at the site and determine if that's a flat site or a sloping site.
But Brian, again, I just want to emphasize that you know, your committee and I, different skills sets, we were both using the same original site plans, which had originally been surveyed. We were all assuming there were 8+ acres there to work with, and we were both wrong. Until we did a new survey, we didn't really know. So we could have had all the aerials and all the topography and all the everything, all the Google Maps, but we found out differently. And that's my only point that I'm trying to make.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Dunham?
Yeah, just one point of clarification from the committee, and anybody from the committee can answer this. It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the prime considerations that went into this is visibility of the new police station, which is why on Center Street. And I'm just thinking that if they were doing the King property, you're really hiding a police station.
No, they're not, Alan. You walked out there recently? It's wide open to the front, to Main Street.
To Route 58?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, on that, the committee did look at the area that Ms. Hewins is talking about and found that in that area, we would have to go to a 2-story building. And that's where the decision was not to go forward to the 2-story building. Can I speak? Thank you. Thank you. I think what you're also hearing here, too, is that the process that we followed as this committee is the same process that we've used for other committees and other projects we've done with great success. And coming back and redefining how the process goes for spending money up survey and getting all this topography stuff, if a site doesn't make sense, you don't want to waste the money putting it into the site. And that's what we found out when we went through scenario A, B, and C, is that A and B didn't work for many of the reasons you've heard tonight. So there was no need to go forward with a survey on that until we found out alternative C, which is where we said, you know what, that works for most everything. Now let's go test it to see if we can actually do it. The other thing that I want to make notion of here too is that no matter what site is chosen, there's going to be some people that are going to feel, whether the word is disenfranchised or feel that that's not the best site or have their own opinion. And we recognize that. But when the committee went through and brought our professionals in and went through everything, again, people who have done this before, we looked at all of those options and determined what we thought was the best solution town-wide. We're not going to make everybody happy. We knew when we went forward and selected the playground, we were going to have to do the master plan and look at another recreation project. We got outside funding for that, and we went forward to try to mitigate that issue. Clearly, the Recreation Committee thinks that there's a great opportunity to develop this recreation complex, which is the process that we're going through right now. And I don't know if any of the other committee members want to jump in here and, just to comment on here, because Dave and Brian and Dave, you went through this whole process, and I think we just need to emphasize the work that went into this.
I think you'd left out a couple of spots that we did look at. One of them was a little bit down on 58, was right next to the river. I believe we ruled that out immediately because of wetland violations. The next one that you talked to us a little bit about was Shirtlift Park. And you said it would fit perfectly inside of Shirtlift Park. And everybody on the board just gasped for air when you said that. And then you brought us through the current one and the different, 2-floor, single floor, and how that would lay out, and you've laid it in every other possible scenario. And then you brought us to Plan A, B, and C, and I remember distinctly hearing the same breath of air when you mentioned the playground. And everybody on the committee said, that's just, it's kind of a sacred area. But once you get beyond that, you brought to us many variations. You cited 2, but I think you forgot that there was a piece of property down on 58, a little bit south. The main thing that there was Pond Street was brought up, Rochester Road was brought up. There was many different locations brought to us, and I'm just doing this out of memory.
Behind EMS.
Behind the EMS.
Avery Ave.
But there was so many pieces of property brought to us, but we wanted it to be front and center. We wanted it to be visible. We wanted lights. We wanted it right up front in the center of our town. And that was our driving force. If I remember right, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. But.
Well, we sort of moved on from public comment, but I'll take a couple.
Dave has a couple
Oh,
comments.
sorry, Dave
Yeah,
first.
so as Mr. Robinson said, we did look at those. The King property was looked at, and that was a 2-story building, which for many reasons we ruled out. And also, putting the police station there kind of gives them a lack of privacy, we'll call it, if the existing ball fields were to stay there. There's room for expansion, but now you're talking relocating all the ball fields if the station were to go there, and some other issues too. So that it was looked at, but there was a lot of reasons, which I can't think of all off the top of my head, but that was kind of quickly vetted out for many reasons.
And I think as you go through this, what the committee went through is there were 20, 30, 40 reasons as to why the location that was chosen over other options. I mean, again, you can design anything, anywhere, squeeze anything in any place, but what are the impacts of doing that? And when you look at the impact of, first of all, you look at the overall project, the location that was chosen, I don't think anybody argues is the best location. I think what's argued is, well, the impact to the playground. And, we felt that we could come up with an alternative plan that would meet the town's growing needs with a new state-of-the-art recreation facility, with a new playground built in connection with all the other recreation activities. And, I think the committee felt that the town was going to get a win-win out of this. They're getting a brand-new police station, and they're getting a brand-new playground. And really what we're talking about is that some people don't want to have the existing playground relocated, or that's it. I mean, that's really what we're down to. Because when you look at the cost, and you heard tonight, it's $384,000 more, sorry, $284,000 more to move the building north. That's an additional cost that would have to come out of the police station budget. Now, yes, you are going to have to replace the playground if you put it on the same spot, but that's a different pot of money that doesn't impact the police station budget. And, again, going back to what we've heard at the Recreation Committee, who stated when questions were asked, well, the best location is where it currently is, members of the Recreation Committee said no. They're representing recreation, all recreation in the town, and they felt the best location is on the King property. And again, when we weigh out all of these costs and impacts, that's what the committee does. That's what happens when we go through this, and we have experience doing it. And this is what we presented as the best solution for the town of Carver, for everybody. Again, some people aren't going to like it, but overall, our job is what's the best long-term solution. You've heard from the police chief, this is the best solution for the police department. You haven't heard the police department or the chief say there's a better site. We haven't heard that at all. So if we're building a police station, and I think as Dick Ward said, is the first priority is building a public safety building. And that's what's been presented back in November when we finally got to alternative C and then refined that and then started the public conversation on mitigating that with alternative playgrounds.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can just go back to what Dagmar said, though. Everyone keeps talking about putting it right next to the police station. I think one of Dagmar's points here was we need new ball fields. There's no question about that. Since we're doing a ball field project now, why don't we put them on the Pond Street site, right? And then put the police station front and center on Main Street, and they have all the way back to the South Meadowbrook. It's 10 acres that they would have. That's plenty of room for expansion. I think I've got.
Mr. Chairman, if I could address that, because I think that does need to be addressed. When you're looking at the King Street property, I think we've heard what the police department needs, is that in essence what you're proposing is relocating the entire King Street property. Because of the similarities that what the chief is trying to do with Woods and do training and do simulation that's back there. Again, that's a police requirement. What I think is, what is not discussed in your analysis or Dagmar's analysis is the 7-digit number, multiple 7-digit numbers that it's going to cost to go to Pond Street and build 2 new softball fields, 2 new Little League fields.
I thought we had CPA money for that.
We don't have 7-digit numbers, multiple 7-digit numbers to do that. We do not have that. And so, again, weighing the impacts is that that's a non-starter unless the committee wants to do that, unless the town wants to do a debt exclusion for a recreation field. That is different than our financial policies, and that's something that cannot be afforded if you're going to relocate the King Street property to satisfy the police requirements.
We've not even seen a cost analysis for any of this.
You may not, actually, that was presented at the last Recreation Committee meeting.
Mr. Belbin, please.
A few things here. Number one, surveying the King property would do 2 things. If we're going to renovate the King Street property, you're going to need a survey anyways. It's going to have to be done. Okay, it's going to be incurred in some type of cost somewhere for it. Okay, that's number one. Number two is we're looking at $1.5 million to renovate the King property. Correct? That's what was brought up at the rec meeting.
That's what I was getting to. At the existing location, over a 10-year period, it's 1.5. You relocate it to another location, you're going to multiply that by 1.5 or 2 times.
Okay, so we're already looking at $1.5 million staged out to this stage, that stage here. on the King property. I mean, we're already taxpayers that are taxed already too much, all right? You got 900,000 in CPA money. Next year, you'll have another probably $400,000 or $500,000 of extra. That's, huh?
You got debt that you have to pay for the turf field.
Right, so I mean, that money's already been allotted to coming down the pike, so we're gonna have less and less money to use for other things, whether it be housing or historic preservation. So I mean, I think the way to go is really to get the King property surveyed and see what actually is there. And I mean, I saw like the property, they wanted to expand it this way and actually infringe on possibly another property. Let's survey it. That's actually a good idea. Thank you.
Mrs. Ferrand?
Is there a possibility, just so we could have clarification, can you pull up the John Deli Piscoli Recreation Complex?
Town Hall Complex.
Yeah, John Deli Piscoli has nothing to do with the recreation complex. That's with,
He was the one that presented that slide, and if you go back to that slide, you can see where you can't even see, if you were to put the police department there, you can't see it from the road.
that's the point we were making, yes.
That's what I'm saying, you can't see it, even if you, no matter where you put it there, you're not gonna see it from Main Street. Where the fire station and police station is now would be your road going in. And where would you've got the pumps there, it's gonna be all in the way. Can I point to the map for a minute? I don't know, I'm just.
Folks,
Can I Google it?
go ahead quickly, please.
All right, there's 6 acres property cards, oh no, there's 10 acres on the King property and an additional 1.87 ball field parking. So we're talking 11.87 based on property cards. This is the former firehouse. We were saying there was room here to start the new building possibly. It's 12,000 square feet, same footprint as the library. So we think, we looked at the library, you could actually, we think, start the building here, and then you could rearrange these, and maybe the only thing that would have to be moved was the softball. You want to keep the Little League together, maybe the softball will relocate it. But I'm thinking big, baseball, big area, Pond
Okay,
Street.
I understand. Thank you. Jim? All right, quickly, yeah.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Second tries.
Yeah, sure.
Rob Reardon, 30 Priscilla Mullins. So I'm not a professional, but when you move on the playground, there's no downtime for the kids, right?
Correct.
How are we going to move these playgrounds? Where are these kids going to play?
Baseball fields?
Oh yeah, baseball fields, exactly. How is that going to happen?
It's a two-year cycle, because when we built the new playgrounds across the street, we have to wait 2 years before they're playable.
Okay. Back to my earlier statement. We're not professionals. Leave this to the professionals to decide. That's what's been done. I'm in full support of moving the playground to the new location. There'll be no downtime. Build the police station. Leave it to the professionals. Thank you.
Did you, yep.
Jim Hoffman, 8 Great Meadow Drive. Concerned citizen and a member of the Recreation Committee. So, yeah. So I have just one comment on the King property. Right now in town, we have a big shortage of fields to begin with. King property is not just baseball and softball. There's also football played on that and soccer occasionally. It went to, Mr. Reardon had pointed out, if we do move any of the fields, to take that out of commission for even one season will just kill the youth programs. We have Forest Street, which we're going to use for a couple new fields now, but as I think Mr. Malinowski had mentioned, fields are going to be rotated. So 2 fields will be out of commission this year. So as a recreation committee, we're looking for more fields. To take anything out of commission for any time would just cripple the youth programs. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask you just a quick question, because as the member of the Recreation Committee, what is the Recreation Committee's opinion, and why did the committee think that this is a better location for a playground than the existing playground? With the synergies of uses and all that stuff.
Sorry, say that again?
So the question is, with the Recreation Committee, is that you've been looking through all of these different scenarios.
Right.
And one of the many discussions with the Recreation Committee is how the multiple uses are with the facility, that it can keep entire families there.
Exactly.
Versus people have to leaving in different locations, and go to different things.
Right, 'cause-
So as a member of the Recreation Committee, could you just share your thoughts as to the benefit of doing this plan?
Well, we thought, first of all, that as most people that go by the baseball fields and all the fields on the weekends, there's always younger kids watching their older brothers and sisters play. At that time, they could utilize the playground more than now, because most parents wouldn't want to send their children over to the existing playground. They want to watch their other children play. So we feel as though get more use. And also, just attract more people to the site, like you said, with having all the fields, and the fields now are used 10 or 11 of the months of the year between all the different sports. So it's not just baseball and softball like it used to be. We're putting football there, putting soccer there. And again, we just wanted to make it the picnic area, so this was what we felt was the best.
And so this is the location where you guys feel you're gonna get the most use and more use by more townspeople by having this complex versus these isolated locations.
Correct. In fact, at one time, there was an idea about a tot playground, and we didn't even consider that at the time because we wanted everybody to be together. We'll have all the children together, whether they're using the fields or the playground. We felt with the limited resources that we have, that was the best place. That was the best.
And just on that, one of the areas is for older kids, one of the areas is for tots, so those two pink areas have different age groups that's on there, so it does cover that.
Correct.
I think what you were mentioning is there was a discussion about putting a tot lot next to the library, and it was decided by the committee, your committee, that this was the best location.
Right, put it all together.
To do that there.
Instead of separating that.
So at the end of that, Mr. Chairman and members of the Selectmen, is that, I think part of the committee's job, and I think everybody's job, is how do we do a project that's gonna get the most public use? And I think you're hearing from the Recreation Committee that they believe, who are in touch with the recreation groups, that this will get the most use in the town, so there might be more taxpayers and citizens using this than isolated projects.
I normally try to run a tighter meeting, but I think in the interest of making sure everyone is heard, I'm going to break the, pardon me?
We have a committee member too.
I just
Oh, I'm
wanted
sorry.
to say a couple things. Thank you for all the support that you guys have given us throughout this. I think we've kind of lost a little bit of focus on where we're going with this. We, as the building committee, and I'm just learning, I'm kind of a rookie to this whole process, and I came on this committee to, once the police station was put somewhere, to put my input on what we thought, the police needed. Throughout this, I've learned a lot, and when we were tasked in the beginning of looking at different sites and where the police station should be, we were also tasked with a budget. And, I listen to everyone talk, and I can appreciate people saying, why didn't you look at this site or this site, which we did definitely look at every site, and we would rule out during that time why these sites didn't work for us. And the site that you're talking about, I don't know every detail of the site because I just don't know that. But I can tell you that we did look at that site. We felt as though, they talked about the two-story building as well as the cost was gonna be significant to move the ball fields. I know there's a gas tank, and again, I'm speaking out of my realm of expertise. But I think we're losing a little bit of focus on the cost of the whole project. And that's why we entertained the site that we have now, and we went through A, B, and C of the sites, and what we felt was best. And secondly, with the playground, I didn't say too much when I was asked before, because I think the chief nailed it, on our concerns with the safety of the children. I know, we're gonna see, and we're gonna be a little bit jaded compared to what everyone else sees as far as the public and what we see and what we deal with. I can personally speak to different times that I've had fights in the parking lot with people, maybe not necessarily in Carver recently, but in Wareham, yes. It's happened here with domestics in the parking lot that I have been privy to. And I don't believe from a standpoint that we look at, that a park or a playground should be on top of the police station parking lot. And I respect everyone's thoughts, and we work for you, and we, like the chief said, we'll make it work any way, any way we can. But I think that, there's a lot of things being thrown out, and I can appreciate it, but we went so far in this process because we have eliminated these different ideas and different thoughts because of the cost, so.
Ma'am in the green?
My name is Bev Gorey. I live at 149 South Main Street. I just wanted to say I've been listening to all the great ideas that are coming from different people. And there was one idea that struck me, and that is we're all talking about how important it is to have a new police station and have all these things. There are certain things that have determined the elimination of certain sites because of things that are not essential to our safety and the basic necessity. No. There was this man over here, I know his name, he talked about using existing empty rooms in the firefighters complex to do some of the exercises that are very important to the police. And that would cut down perhaps on the size of the site that was required for the police enough so that we could start considering things like Kings Point and a couple of the other ones that were not allowed as long as you assumed that the police needed to have these extra training areas that you could actually deal with by using unused rooms and so forth in the firefighter thing.
Thank you.
May I address that?
Yes, Chief.
So that sounds nice, that what we're talking about with the training that I'm talking about is outside in the backyard using shipping containers we cut with holes in doors or windows, not rooms inside of actual buildings. We wouldn't. We've done that inside the schools. That's not what we would do on a regular basis.
Mr. Jermaine, I think you had your hand up.
Alan Germain, 24 Pine. I think that what we should do is just, thanks anyway, we're going to start all over again. How long has this committee been trying to put this plan together? How many months?
10.
10 months. So 10 months, and all of a sudden now, the best idea going in the whole wide world is the King property. And we should just leave the playground where it is, because the playground is an agenda item. It's going to divide. It is what it is. Those that want the police station put where the recommendation of this committee has suggested it go, and I'm one of those people, and the playground can certainly, I don't want to see it go away. I want to see it get relocated. I think it's a great idea to put it over here in the complex the way you've designed this. I think this took a tremendous amount of time, effort, work. I know that one chairman of the Board of Selectmen resigned. I know that the chairman of this committee is taking time off for health reasons. I think this has become the Hatfields and McCoys. And I think what everybody, including everybody in this room, has forgotten is that every one of us are neighbors. We bump into each other in Dunkin' Donuts. We bump into each other in Shaw's. We bump into each other when we go out to dinner. We elected these officials to do the job that we wanted them to do. Didn't mean we're going to always agree, because we certainly are not. And we elected this board to hire the people that put together these committees that we trusted to do this job. And now we're in here second, third, fourth, and fifth guessing the whole thing. I think that we need to remember we are neighbors. And when this is all said and done, and it's 2, 3, 4 years from now, and there's a beautiful new police station wherever the hell we put it, and there's a playground wherever the hell we put that we're still going to all be neighbors. And then we're going to remember a time like, where'd he go? Got up and talked about what happened 25 years ago and 20 years ago. Am I wrong?
You know, I mean, I've been here since the year 2000, so I'm a new kid. And I didn't get involved in the town because I wasn't home all week long. So I sympathize with not knowing what's going on. You're absolutely right. I had no idea. I couldn't tell you a selectman from a fire hydrant. Didn't know. In fact, I was shocked after 4 years of living here that we didn't have fire hydrants. And I can remember asking that question. How come there's one up the end of town here and there's nothing? Well, you know, everybody's on a well. What do you mean everybody's on a well? I thought I was the only unique guy who was on a well. So I come here now and I give back to the town that I chose to move to. And now I try to give back, not always so gracefully. I try to give back to the town that has done a tremendous amount for me. And that's my only motivation. There's no agenda. I think there's not a person in this room that I respect more than I respect the chief. And it has nothing to do with the badge, has nothing to do with it, it has to do with the personality. And I'm friends with a lot of other people in this room too. But I have a tremendous amount of respect. And if this is what this gentleman says he needs, then I got to agree. I'm sorry. I agree. But we are neighbors. Let's not lose sight of that.
Thank you. All right. The next phase is to, I'll hand this over to the police station building committee. Discussion and possible vote on amending their recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that was made December 4th, 2018.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go through each member and see if they have anything to add to it. I'm going to start with Chief Dufley. Anything different that you'd like to add to what our proposal was to the Board of Selectmen?
No, I think we've discussed it tonight. I think that we are not going to please everyone with the decision. I believe that we've brought the best plan forward for the police station and for the community. I believe as a community, we can make this work. And I hope that if you vote to approve that, we all still work together to make this work. We've looked at it long and hard. I've listened to people tell me they don't think there's enough room there. I believe that there is enough room with moving the playground to be able to construct a police facility that will allow us to move forward into the future on that location.
David?
No, when we brought this proposal, I felt we had made the best decision at the time. Through this process, I've kept an open mind. I've listened to everyone's opinions, suggestions, and it's just reaffirmed to me that going forward, we still have the best plan in place.
Sergeant?
I pretty much will just piggyback off of that. I think that we've put a lot of time and a lot of effort, and again, I said this before, we work for the community, we want to keep those ties strong, and, you know, I think that we're doing our due diligence on exhausting every option.
Mr. Robinson?
Thank you.
I feel the same way. I think the amount of work that's gone in, and Brian, I want to thank you for bringing that to us. That's a pretty extensive load on your shoulders tonight, and I do appreciate that. Joe, yourself, didn't mean to leave you out of that. Sorry about that. But I think anything that was said tonight actually confirmed my belief stronger. So.
And although Bill Harriman's not here tonight, I did talk to him over the weekend, and he reviewed all the information and still feels that, you know, after being involved in multiple building committees, that the decision that has been selected by this committee with the help of our professionals, looking at all the facts, is the best plan in the long-term interest of, one, the police department, and two, the entire community. So, Mr. Chairman, I do not see anyone on the Police Station Building Advisory Committee looking to make any changes compared to what they had already recommended to the Board of Selectmen back in December.
All right, now we go to the Board of Selectmen for discussion and a possible vote to amend or change the vote that was made on December 4th, 2018 regarding the Police Station Building Committee recommendation. Mr. Dunham?
I have to go along with the building committee and their recommendation. They're the professionals, they're the ones that worked it. I appreciate everybody's comments. This is certainly, when somebody said you're not gonna make all the people happy, well, I think tonight pretty much proves it. I don't see any accomplishment to change. I have no intention of changing my vote that I cast on December 4th, which was in support of the proposal that was presented to us that day.
Mr. Townsend?
Thank you. As was mentioned tonight, I was on the original committee that built that playground over there. My name is on the sign over there. And when this whole process started, I approached this that the playground was already there. And someone was going to have to prove to me that we needed to move it, that the police station couldn't go anywhere else. I think that's been proven to me. I think public safety is the most important thing we do as a board, and I don't want to change my vote.
Okay. Mr. Robertson?
I'll just restate what I just said from the previous board. I'm 100% convinced that the location is where it should go, as we presented it.
Ms. Hewen?
And thank you for calling me Ms. Hewens. Not Mrs. Hewens. That was my mother.
Did I do that?
No, you did not. Thank you. So, since clearly there's no vote being suggested to, rescind our vote and go down a different path, I want to say very clearly that I want to make it known that I am definitely for this new police station. I'm definitely for finding it a good location. And I definitely support public safety. I don't want that to be misunderstood at all here. I think the problem has been the process. And if this were to come to a vote, I would vote no against the process, even more so than the actual location, because I don't think all the sites have been looked at. I don't think we've had, the public at least, for the public, that hasn't been as transparent as it could be. And I think that the locations, the costs, the pros and cons just haven't been out there. I'm not sure if everyone's really convinced that this is the only place where it will work. And I think that's because the process was flawed, as I said earlier. And if it were to come to a vote again, I would vote no again, not against the police station, but against the way the process has been undertaken. And if this were the only location where it could possibly be, then maybe yes, I would vote yes. But I don't think that's been demonstrated.
Thank you. Let me start by saying I guess I'll apologize if I've been a little testy. It's been a tough 2 months when it's suggested that we have some sort of motivation and that we're in the tank and this has all been decided and we're not exercising what we think is best for the town, but rather I'm not sure what motivation I would have other than what I think is best for the town. But you get poked enough, sometimes you feel it. So apologize if I was a little testy from up here at various points. 2 things. One was walking the site, standing behind the existing playground and walking across the street where the fire station is and walking up and down the property and looking at the sight lines. And having heard Mr. Hume specifically address how important visibility is in a public safety facility, there's just no question as to how important that is. The second thing is, we're talking about Chief Dufley running a paramilitary organization, and I am going to defer to the professionals every time when we talk about that. I said before that if we weren't building a new playground, I would still support if the idea of placing the police station where they're suggesting it go, on top of the existing playground, even if we weren't going to create a new playground, because public safety comes first. As it is, they're developing a plan to build what they describe as a bigger and better playground. I'll leave that to the Recreation Committee to do their work on, but I am going to continue, as I said before, defer to the professional law enforcement officer and Chief Dufley and his squad in determining what the best siting is for a police station. So I would not be changing my vote either. Well, that brings us to the end of the meeting. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank